#1 selling testosterone-boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now, and we'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever. Absolutely free. Text YOUTH to 42424. That's youth to 42424. Products and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or illness.
1, 2, 3 into the 4. Avondale Roofing is knocking on your door. Leaking roof? Man, that's a shame. Call the real pros. We running this game. We patch it, thatch it, no need to stress. Our crew shows up and cleans up the mess. No drips, no drafts, no drama at all. Just tight new shingles, then a leak-proof hall. Hey.
It's nothing but Avondale, baby. They keep it dry when the weather gets crazy. Hey.
Visit AvondaleRoofing.com. That is AvondaleRoofing.com.
What is dedication?
My daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't? I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
I think it's just vapor.
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes.
My kid
knows it's dangerous.
5.4 million American kids vape, and most think it's harmless. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. That's talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Hey, this is Homer. You're listening to the home of Marquette basketball. 94.5 ESPN is WKTI and WKTI HD, Milwaukee.
A locally owned Good Karma brand station.
Ladies and gentlemen, cheeseheads of all ages, we're gathered here today to assess the health of a nation.
I think we're capable of being a really good football team, a really good competitive football team. But it's not just going to happen.
A nation responsible for 4 Super Bowls.
The Green Bay Packers have won the Super Bowl. The Lombardi Trophy is coming home.
29 Hall of Famers.
40 yards.
It is a touchdown for Leroy Butler.
Sterling Sharp's 3rd touchdown of the game.
And for being one of the most historic franchises in all of professional sports.
I'd like to welcome you all, of course, and tell you how proud we are to have you a part of the Packers, just as you should be proud to be here, to be a part of this team.
Live from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Zone on the grounds of Summerfest, this is the State of the Packers. Alongside Gabe Neitzel and 3-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year Jason Wilde, here's Alex Strouf.
Away we go. State of the Packers 2025. Just a couple of weeks away from the start of training camp in the 2025 NFL season. They say you save the best for last. That's especially what we're doing here at Summerfest. The final day of Summerfest, and it's State of the Packers time. Gabe Neitzel, Jason Wilde, Alex Strouf hanging out with you for the next 3 hours as we assess the health of a nation. we take a deep dive overview. Does that make sense? A deep dive overview? Deep dive analysis? Assessment?
Who made that open?
That's all Will Summers, our producer.
I was going to say, it was way too good for you.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
Very good work, Will. Well done. We
Thank
appreciate your efforts. At some point...
I'm sorry, hold on. There's a man in a full-blown...
This is why we can't do this at Summerfest. We can't, or we just get distracted.
I just want to point out how
12. I mean, you are professional, yes.
It's 12:02 and Superman
you should know better. You're the one who's done a show here each and every last Saturday, and you're the one who gets distracted
for the
by
last
the guy.
4 years, might I add. Yeah.
And you're the one who gets distracted.
The Man of Steel has let himself go a bit.
Yeah,
again, hey, age catches us all, Jason.
All right,
age
Jason,
catches us all.
I'm sorry to distract you. Go ahead.
Well, no, now I got to get a picture of this.
So somebody dressed in a Superman costume was just walking by
with a speaker.
with his own speaker playing the theme for Superman. So that's how we're starting Summerfest right away.
Unbelievable.
I can't wait. This is just that is the perfect way to start the day.
Oh, I actually have a good transition. I have a good one.
I'm excited.
Can Jordan
There he
Love
is.
be the Superman of the NFL?
It's a great question.
And here is Superman walking right up to us at State of the Packers. I don't know what's happening. All right, let's go. State of the quarterback, state of the running backs for the 2025 Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love entering year 3 as the starter, fresh off his first season as the $55 million man. Obviously battled some injuries last season and was okay. He wasn't as good as he was the back half of the 2023 season. But 2025 brings...
You're getting very emotional.
My Superman. 2025...
to meet the Man of Steel.
2025 brings a huge season.
Yeah, all right.
For Jordan Love.
So I appreciate our guest. You clearly want attention, right, when you come to Summerfest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When it's 90 degrees in a full-blown Superman costume. But here's the thing. Great transition by you, because here's the reality. The Packers don't need their quarterback to be Superman. And I don't like to recycle lines, but as you pointed out, I'm on so many shows, it's hard not to. They don't have to win always because of Jordan Love. They need to win with him. And sometimes that means he's going to have to make those Superman plays and have those moments. But what they definitely need, and look, he had those throws last season, right, Gabe? I mean, there were throws where you were like, whew, that's a wild throw. Remember when I used to talk about how few of those we saw when he was a backup and he was in practice? We saw plenty of wild throws over the last 2 seasons. What we need to see is healthy and consistent play from him in 2025. And if that happens, that puts them in a much different place this season than they finished last year, losing 3 in a row to close the year.
It's the consistency in terms of the accuracy, the decision-making, because it seemed like he had finally gotten over that hump, right? So he doesn't really turn the ball over second half of last year, has the 2 bad turnovers against San Francisco, or 2 years ago, I should say. And then last year, turnovers were plentiful early in the season. And part of that, we threw an interception in the opening game, throws 3 in his comeback against the Minnesota Vikings, and then turned the ball over every game, like for 6 or 7 games in a row. And then once again goes, oh, hey, turnover-free play the rest of the way, only to throw 3 interceptions in the postseason. And I know you love to recycle one of Jason's favorite lines, growth isn't linear, but you have to be better at
You do. It's the one you use most often.
You have to be better in your decision-making when you're in those big games, because those are the moments where Jordan Love just didn't show up as much this year. And that's what ultimately hurt the Packers and made them, once again, the 7 seed. And they ended up playing the best team in the NFL right away in the first week of the postseason. You play a little bit more consistent. Maybe you're still a wild card, but you get a better matchup the way that the Commanders did. And now the Commanders are everybody's darling because of the run they were able to go on last year because of the favorable matchups they had in the postseason.
And it's strange that we have such a different feeling about this team. And I know Will put it in the open for the show, LaFleur's answer when it was the last question heading into the offseason, and he wanted to say something stronger than we think we can have a really competitive team. And he wanted to make sure he checked himself in terms of expectations. But the bottom line is they feel like they've got a really good football team. Mm-hmm. The issue is the way they finished last season as opposed to the way they finished 2023. It's a completely different vibe about them, right? They won the last 3 of the regular season in 23. Then they go to Dallas and kick Mike McCarthy's team's keister. And for 3 quarters in Santa Clara, they've got the 49ers on the ropes. Mm-hmm. Instead, they lose their last 3 games, including the playoff game. And in his last 5 playoff quarters, Jordan Love has thrown 5 interceptions. And yes, Malik Heath ran too deep of a route on one of them. But the bottom line is that he has to be better than he was, but he doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers of the 2010 Super Bowl run. He doesn't have to be that guy for a 17-game stretch, but they need him to be more, to your point, consistent on his accuracy, consistent on his, and I've expressed this to you both from time to time this offseason. it really bothers me that any level of critique that isn't he's star-spangled awesome is viewed these days by a portion of the fan base as hating on Jordan Love. I think we all agree he is a good quarterback. The only question now is how good is he going to turn out to be? And how far are they going to get with him and because of him in the postseason moving forward?
Yeah, how good can he be is the ultimate question when it comes to Jordan Love, because we've seen moments, as you mentioned, of the star-spangled awesomeness, right, in 2023, that amazing stretch, as you referenced. Last year was a little bit more of a roller coaster, but I think a lot of that was likely due to injury, right? He hurt his knee in the opener, had the groin injury.
But that's it.
When Gabe does this,
you get the
be ready.
He's rubbing his hands.
But that's all he gets.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. If we want to say, and it's not to me, it's not an excuse. It is a fact. He was injured last year, and he hadn't really ever been injured in his career. Whether we're going back to Utah State, obviously sat for a long time. You have to play through injury in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes led his team to a Super Bowl with a bad calf. Aaron Rodgers, how many times did he play through injury? And honestly, because he wasn't Brett Favre, didn't get the credit that he probably deserved for being as tough as he was.
Played an entire 2018 season with a crack in his knee that he sustained in the opener. Played the 2022 season with a broken thumb, and everyone just thought, well, he really sucked in those seasons.
Yeah, so he does. I mean, but that's part of playing in the NFL, having that injury and finding a way to be productive. I mean, I think of Aaron Rodgers in 2014. He couldn't move on his calf.
Correct.
And they were that close to still making it to a Super Bowl because he was able to be effective despite having that injury. So I think for Jordan, some things went awry because of the injury. He was trying to figure out how to play through it. But if you want to be a consistent player, if you want to be a top 10 quarterback in this league, which he needs to be.
Yes, he does.
You have to find a way to still be productive and still uphold the standard that they have for you, even if you have a tough injury.
I think the ultimate point with Jordan Love is, and I think this has been the theme of the offseason, at least for me, there's no more excuses, right? The Packers continue to invest in pieces around him. They finally spend a first-round pick on a wide receiver in Matthew Golden. They invest heavily in upgrading the offensive line this offseason by bringing in Aaron Banks, who I know we'll talk about in a little bit. The pieces around him are no longer... I don't think you can anymore go, well, they're the youngest team in the league. They're young. They're going to make mistakes. And that will certainly still happen this season. Don't get me wrong, especially with Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. But we are at a point now in year 3 of Jordan Love that I think the excuses are kind of gone in terms of the pieces around him because of the investment level that the Packers have, well, invested.
Yeah, and what I like about Jordan Love is that he doesn't use any of those excuses, right? And he doesn't blame his teammates, which other quarterbacks do from time to time, right? And, you know, I love the fact that when he was asked about some of the drops, and what was the one game where they had like 9 drops in a single game? He said, well, if I throw the ball more accurately, maybe some of those they catch, right? Mm-hmm. They did have 33 drops. That's part of this equation, too. You know, if even half of those are caught, his completion percentage is a meaningful amount better. So those all, like Gabe, you put it perfectly, they're not excuses, they are facts. But when we start to lean on them to use them as excuses, that's when I have a little bit more of a problem. And again, what I like about Jordan, you know, the only time in now the first 2 years he was in the league, I was never in the locker room with him because of the COVID restrictions. So 22, 23, 24 were the 3 years that I was able to be around him in person. I had not seen him even be mildly indignant with a reporter, except for when someone asked him during OTAs about taking a step back. Well, what do you mean taking a step back? That's the only time. I mean, he wasn't even that way when something I said on Homer spun into he's going to ask for a trade if Rodgers doesn't leave after the 22 season. I mean, he and I had a great conversation, and he wasn't a jerk about it. That was the only time I've seen him get irritated. He is very even-keeled. I think that's a really good quality, and I think when you look at the resume he's put together so far, LaFleur, when he was asked what his biggest thing that he has to do this season is, it was become a more vocal leader. It wasn't about anything else in his game. I'm really eager to see if he is as good as we think he can be, or if he's only just as good as we've seen him, which then you start to wonder just how good that really is and if that's good enough.
How do we measure that? Is that just simply the eye test? Because obviously Packers fans are so used to
QBR because he was a top 5 quarterback user.
I know you love that. I mean, obviously Packers fans are very used to high-level quarterback play, right? That's no secret between Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and obviously now Jordan Love. But we think he can be good, is what we say a lot when it comes to Jordan Love. So how do we evaluate that?
Well,
I'm just curious how you guys
good.
feel.
He is good. It's just how good are you now in the league? I think he has established over the last 2 years with the way he's been able to play, the Packers being in the postseason, him being a big part of that. He's a good quarterback.
Yep.
That is undisputable. No one's going to say that.
He makes some big boy throws that deserve to be viewed that way.
I don't know if anybody is still saying, well, I don't know if Jordan Love can play in this league. Nobody is saying that the way we were in the first 8 weeks of his starting career.
Right?
Over the last season and a half, he's proven he belongs in this league, and he's proven at times he can play at a high level. Can he sustain that high level over 17 games is the next step in his progression.
And it's up to Matt LaFleur to do an even better job of putting him in that position to succeed, right? I think as we watched the season go on last year, there was a staleness to their offense. LaFleur talked about how sloppy they were. He had that line about we need to win our one-on-ones when he channeled his inner Mike McCarthy, which I wasn't expecting. So all those things are factors, too.
Is there more pressure on LaFleur this year because of the change at quarterback coach? To make sure that the new coaches are on top of everything they need to be on top of in terms of Jordan Love and his continued development?
So that's a good question. I think there's more pressure on him, but it's not because of that. I think it's possible that now Jordan Love is at a point in his career where he doesn't need the, for lack of a better term, fundamentalist coach in Tom Clements who taught all the certainly these other coaches that they have there, and they got a lot of cooks in that kitchen.
They sure do.
Right? They've got, obviously, Matt LaFleur's in the quarterback room all the time. They've got Sean Mannion, who was promoted to quarterback's coach, but now Luke Getsy, who was the quarterback's coach before Tom Clements came back, is also in there. So they, you got to be a little bit careful with that stew that you're creating for your quarterbacks. But I think there's plenty of guys there that are familiar with what Tom Clements taught, including Jordan Love himself, that they can harken back to that. To me, I do wonder if this is a year that he actually needed someone different to help him make the next step. A guy who, albeit as a backup, played in the league a long time, has a slightly different background and experience, and is younger. I mean, Sean Mannion is younger than Aaron Rodgers is, and Aaron Rodgers is still playing, and Sean Mannion's in his second season as an assistant in Green Bay.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite parts of State of the Packers is consistently seeing Jason's family and all the different things that they collect.
They just collect so much.
Throughout the course of the day.
Is there a bubbler stand is what I want
There
to
is,
know.
yes. It's right over there. Yeah, right, not far from us.
Come back when you stop the bubbler stand. Although I do like the Dunkin' Donuts. I'm going to need this in here. You guys, we could share this.
Yeah, we might need to. It's a toasty one here at Summerfest. It's State of the Packers live from Summerfest. Alex Strouf, Jason Wilde, Gabe Neitzel hanging out with you until 3 o'clock. We are discussing the state of the quarterback in Jordan Love and how good he can be in 2025.
So before we can break, you're running the show. You're the boss here, okay? But I do, when we come back, before we get to running backs, I do have a presentation I'd like to make on the air to one Gabe Neitzel.
Oh, man.
I have no idea where this is headed.
Neither
it could
do
be
I.
Good. It could be negative.
He told me he had a presentation. He didn't tell me it specifically involved me.
Yeah.
It really
We're going to find out.
Involves one of your relatives, Keith.
Okay. That's your father, whose name is not actually Keith.
That is correct, yes.
He did some work for you one time.
Don't spoil the surprise.
Excuse me. All right. A dazzling presentation. State of the running backs, state of the pass catchers, state of the offensive line. All still ahead here in the 12 o'clock hour of State of the Packers, which continues right after this on ESPN Wisconsin.
You're listening to the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. Get your golf fix every Tuesday night at 6 with On the Tee.
Spieth is probably going to, embarrass me at some point. What the hell do you know? Shut up and carry the bag.
Join Gabe Neitzel and Stephen Watson as they dissect all things pro golf and tell the tales of their own golfing journeys in Wisconsin.
I think it's golf in its purest form, and I think it should bookend the golf season.
Go On the Tee with Gabe and Stephen, sponsored by Majestic Oaks at Lake Lawn Resort and Gruber Law Offices. Tuesday nights at 6 on 94.5 ESPN and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Make plans to stop by Third Ward Beer Garden at Catalano Square. Experience Milwaukee's favorite beer garden, the perfect spot to meet up with friends in the Third Ward. Open Wednesday through Sunday with live music Thursday through Saturday. Good times and great vibes await at Third Ward Beer Garden.
Whether you're a local who wants to enjoy a night out or you're planning to visit Milwaukee, enjoy an artfully stylish experience at St. Kate the Arts Hotel, conveniently located in the heart of downtown Milwaukee's Theater District. With deluxe accommodations, culinary creativity, on-site art galleries, artist in residence, and nightly live music, you'll enjoy every element of your stay at St. Kate. Learn more and book your stay at stkatearts.com.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Good Karma Brands would like to send out a big congratulations to Tori Lowe. Tori recently received a proclamation from both the City of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County. So going forward, July 5th will now be recognized as Tori Lowe Day. Tori's activism, advocacy, and hard work makes Tori more than deserving of this recognition. Tori's family at 1017 The Truth celebrate Tori for always being about that action. And we know this is just the beginning, and there is so much more to come as a result of Tori's efforts and leadership. Congratulations again, Tori.
What's going on, Truth Nation? It's your girl, DT from Truth Unfiltered with Dr. Ken, reminding you to check out my interview with Old National Bank Senior Vice President Tracy Meeks this Monday night. We're going to be discussing Old National Bank's Empowerment Loan Program, why it was created, how it's different from traditional bank programs, and how this program can positively impact Black and Brown-owned businesses and communities. It's information you definitely are going to want to get educated on, so don't miss my one-on-one with Tracy this Monday night on Truth Unfiltered on the award-winning 1017 The Truth.
Truth Nation, are you looking for a fun opportunity to showcase your clothing line, restaurant, nonprofit organization, food truck, or small business? Well, look no further than doing it at our Truth Family Fest on Saturday, August 23rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Riverside University High School. We are currently accepting vendor applications for our festival. You don't want to miss out on this great opportunity to promote your business and be part of all the fun. To be a vendor at Truth Family Fest, visit truthfamilyfest.com and sign up today.
Your state, your teams, your ESPN. The ESPN Wisconsin app. Customizable just for you. Find the ESPN Wisconsin app in the Apple or Android app stores today. This is the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
State of the Packers 2025, live from the world's largest music festival, Summerfest, in the Gruber Law Offices Sports Zone, inside the Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin Mobile Studio. I'm Alex Strouf, alongside from Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, Gabe Neitzel, and from Wilde and Tausch, the three-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year, Jason Wilde, who now has the floor as he makes a dazzling presentation of sorts to Gabe Neitzel.
Long overdue. For those of you that are avid listeners to Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, every weekday 7 to 9, Wilde and Tausch 9 to noon. The great Mark Neitzel, Gabe's dad, who is a master electrician.
One-time guest of Wilde and Tausch.
Indeed, we had an electricity question. He called in. He is my go-to electrician. I have more work that needs to be done, as Paula pointed out. So she said, you know, as much as that bit about you not having paid him his $90 for, is that about 14 months overdue, I believe, if the math is right. I'll be honest with you, I had to tear up the check that I had written in real time back at the time that he did the work and throw it away. Because I don't know enough about banking at Associated Bank. Can you still cash that? Was it expired? So it's like that old commercial, expired. So I was going to make a much larger check, like one of those that you do when you give out a big charitable donation.
Yeah, Happy
By
Gilmore.
the way, tell your dad the real check's back there. This is not real currency, but from the Poor Man's Bank of Green Bay, because I would never put the Associated Bank logo on something that is paid so late. The $90 that is owed to Neitzel Electric.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much.
That is very funny.
And let him know that the next task that he takes on for us, I will pay him immediately before he leaves my driveway.
That is terrific.
Oh,
Very
this is
funny
fantastic.
bit.
Yes.
What do you think he'll do with that? But August 22nd, 2024.
That was when I wrote the check.
Oh, okay.
I took the date off of it before I ripped it
That
out.
was 11 months ago.
So, yeah. A little,
Better late than never, I guess.
Coming up on a year,
We had a good run. And now we've got some other lights that aren't working in a couple
All right.
of clubs.
Well, I think you have Keith's number, so you can.
I do.
You can get
in
a
all
hold of him.
seriousness, I know we got Packers to get to, but I thought this would be a good place
it's a
because I don't get to see you in
opportunity.
person.
That's true.
And your dad is a fantastic guy. He was very patient. This all is because I don't know about you guys. You guys probably heard my story on Wilde and Tausch about going to Woodman's and coming up 17 cents short in my payment for the bubbler drinks we had purchased, and I didn't know that my debit cards had expired. I don't use cash. I don't write checks. I don't know about you guys.
I don't know.
It's all Venmo and whatever else, and so this is embarrassing and yet kind of a fun shtick. And now on to the running backs.
And now on to the Pack.
It's State of the Packers 2025. That's three-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year and a man that has fulfilled his payment to his electrician, Jason
Better late
Wilde.
than never.
That is Gabe Neitzel.
I don't know if he's debt-free, but he's got one he can check off.
From Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, I'm Alex Strouf hanging out with you. We just wrapped up our conversation on Jordan Love and the state of the quarterback, so let's move on to state of the running backs, coming off of one heck of a debut season with the Green Bay Packers last year. Josh Jacobs back for year 2 in Green Bay this upcoming season. Now, we also have some question marks behind him. Marshawn Lloyd, who they spent a mid-round pick on last year, did not play at all last year, partially due to an injury earlier in the year, and then an emergency appendectomy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So
right when he was going to come back.
He will make a real debut in 2025. Emmanuel Wilson still on the roster. Jason, the state of the running back, I think the Packers feel very, very good about that position.
Well, they certainly feel very, very good about their starter. And look, I think Emmanuel Wilson is probably a little underappreciated. The guy averaged 5 yards a carry last year.
He's underappreciated.
Yeah, I was wrong on him. I'll admit it.
But hey, look, we were wrong at this show 2 years ago in the summer of 2023 about the Packers' record in 2023.
In the 2023 season, during the 49ers playoff game, Emmanuel Wilson got several carries when it was a one-possession game, one-score game. And we were doing a watch-along on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube, myself and Gabe Neitzel, and I was yelling, "Why is Emmanuel Wilson on the field?" Turned out I was pretty wrong about him. He's a pretty solid player.
He is, and to your point about Marshawn Lloyd, they like him. It's kind of like the old Ty Summers line from Uncle Homer. I love everything about him. I don't know anything about him. Because we don't know. He's had 6 NFL carries. He's played in 1 NFL game. And so the idea that they would be okay if Josh Jacobs missed time, I'm not sure I'm on board with that, as much as I like Emmanuel Wilson more than you. And you guys are on the esteemed Blue Ribbon panel that's involved with the 20 most important Packers of 2025 rankings on channel3000.com. And it took me a long time to decide on who should be 2 and who should be 1. I'm not going to reveal it now, but I think Josh Jacobs is a really, really important piece to a team that ran the ball more than they threw it last season, and not just because of that one game when they gave it to him 742 times against the Colts.
He's the reason they revamped their offense.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Exactamundo!
He's not just, they didn't just turn around and hand it off to him. They changed the way that they block a lot of times because they wanted to make it easier for Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
They decided that he is that kind of player. They think he's that special, that he can be the workhorse that they can rely upon. And they're going to be, while I do think they'd like to maybe throw it a little bit more this year, and maybe not run it actually more than they throw it. That was, I think, also something out of necessity, but they found something that worked for them. Maybe be a little bit more efficient out of your play-action passing game with Josh Jacobs. But he is, without a doubt, their best offensive player.
Yep.
And they acted like it last year. And I'm guessing we're going to see more of the same of them wanting and being selective when they give it to him 742 times in one game, certainly. Not do that every single week. But he's somebody that they're expecting big things from still. I think he had a top 5 season in the history of the Green Bay Packers in terms of running back last year.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, 100% agree. But I think the thing with him, I'm intrigued by this season because I don't know the answer. And we won't until the season begins. But are they going to shift a little bit away from utilizing him as much as they did a year ago in the running game, right? Are they going to involve more Marshawn Lloyd? Will they involve more Emmanuel Wilson than giving him the ball 742 times if their quarterback goes down and Malik Willis has to play a game?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and one that, they obviously had to do that with Aaron Jones, right? It was always about load management with him, and they basically, one of the many appealing things about Josh Jacobs was that they didn't feel like they had to do that with him, and they clearly didn't, right? I mean, to me, Gabe's best point, though, is, among many, is the fact that he really was the engine that made their offense go. And not only did they revamp their offense to run more duo blocking schemes because that's what he preferred, and he apparently likes running out of the shotgun, which I thought was interesting because I think the drawback to that is their play-action game was not nearly as effective as it had been the year before, which, oh, by the way, was a key component in Jordan Love's productivity in the second half of 2023. Because remember, Aaron Jones had like 6 100-yard games down the stretch.
Sure did.
So you put all that together, and they have to revamp what they're going to do there. But to me, the biggest thing about Josh Jacobs, and I started to tell Josh this statistic when we talked to him during the OTAs, and I don't blame him because my questions are long, but he interrupted me because he knew the statistic, and that is Saquon Barkley last season had 2,006 total rushing yards. He had 1,328 rushing yards before contact. Josh Jacobs had 1,329 total rushing yards. He had 1 fewer yard before contact than Josh Jacobs had in the entire season.
Wow.
And Josh Jacobs' rushing yards were more after contact, 700 plus, than before contact. And so when you look at what they've done to the offensive line, and this is, again, an argument for why he should or could be number one on our list, is that they had not only revamped their offense from last year, they revamped their offensive line this offseason, and it wasn't to protect Love better. It was to get a road-grading left guard in Aaron Banks and to move a much better power blocker in Elton Jenkins to center. And then they've got Sean Ryan at right guard. If they're going to give the job at left tackle to Jordan Morgan, I would argue that he's probably a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. So those are all little breadcrumbs that lead me to think they're not going to go easy on Josh Jacobs, but they may try to lessen his load from time to time.
Hansel again with the breadcrumbs.
Yes,
got to pay attention to those.
Wow, very good stuff from Jason Wilde.
Great Christmas gift.
Well, we're 2 segments in. We've done state of the quarterback and state of the running backs. Both positive, very positive from us.
Positive.
Positives and negatives on Wilde and Tausch. The next conversation we have is going to be an interesting one. After the Packers use a first-round pick to select a wide receiver for the first time since 2003. Coming up next on State of the Packers live from Summerfest is the state of the pass catchers. We will talk wide receivers and tight ends. It's going to be an interesting conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. That's coming up next. State of the Packers live from Summerfest right here on ESPN Wisconsin.
You're listening to the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Hey ESPN Milwaukee fans, Brian Balaga here for Surfside. Summer is heating up, and there's nothing more refreshing than an ice-cold Surfside iced tea and vodka or Surfside lemonade and vodka to break the heat. Made with real brewed tea and real vodka, Surfside is only 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar, and 0 bubbles. That's right, no carbonation, so it's easy to sip and enjoy no matter what your plans are this weekend. Look for the can with the sunset stripes, sold at bars, restaurants, and stores near you. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that catch-up.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Kyle Brust-Norman's Ben Brust here for Grimal and Associates Insurance. They do what anyone with a growing family, like myself, does. Protect what matters most. Grimal and Associates specializes in coverage that's tailored exactly to you. Clients aren't just policies. They're part of their community. Personalized American family insurance back service, expert guidance, and genuine commitment. Grimal and Associates focuses on building trusted relationships and providing peace of mind. The same values they've had for over 30 years in the Milwaukee area. Connect with Grimal and Associates at teamgrimal.com.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns, it's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know caring for addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma goes hand in hand. We're here for you with new tools when life breaks down. Discover your path to better mental health at hazeldenbettyford.org/Wisconsin. Sponsored by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation.
Open road is calling, and the ride begins at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. This July, you could burn rubber on a custom Harley-Davidson in the Fire Up Your Fantasy motorcycle giveaway. Play with your rewards card all July for entries. Thursday drawings for extra cash and reward play. Fire Up Your Fantasy, only at Potawatomi. More info online. Must be 21 and a rewards member to play.
I take care of my bone health, so I remain strong and active as I age. You can too. It is never too early or too late to start taking care of your bones. Bones provide support to keep you moving. Maintain bone strength at every age by getting calcium and vitamin D in your diet and exercising regularly. Get on your own path to good bone health. For bone health tips, visit pathtogoodbonehealth.org.
Station updates, show clips, and your place to interact with us every single day just by scrolling through your feed. Follow along on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at ESPN Milwaukee. This is the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
State of the Packers 2025, live from Summerfest. Alex Strouf, Gabe Neitzel, Jason Wilde hanging out with you on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and, of course, ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. We were talking in the break, and Jason used the term sexy to describe the first-round selection in this year's NFL Draft, which, of course, was hosted in Green Bay. Outgoing President and CEO Mark Murphy making the selection for the Packers, or announcing the selection, rather, for the Packers. Of wide receiver.
Maybe he made it too. I don't know.
He might have. That was the rumor, at least. Wide receiver Matthew Golden from Texas. For the first time since 2003, the Packers spend a first-round pick on a wide receiver. They followed that up the following day with a third-round selection of Savion Williams, another wide receiver. Romeo Doubs entering a contract year, his fourth year. Christian Watson tore his ACL at the end of last season, so we aren't sure when we will see him, despite some positive videos making the rounds on social media that makes him look very quick and healthy. Jaden Reed, another season of leading the Packers in receiving yards, but not really going over the hump. A couple of disappearing acts for him. Dontavian Wicks still looks good, just struggled with drops last year.
Same number of receptions as he had as a rookie, so he did not make the jump either. Although, unlike Jaden Reed in the second half of the season, he was more consistent and the drops were resolved. Not the case for Jaden Reed.
We still have yet to see a full-blown season of both young tight ends entering year three healthy together. Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave enter, at least at this point, this season both healthy, which is an encouraging sign. The state of the pass catchers is an interesting one because you've got a bunch of them. You've got high hopes for all of them. It just hasn't quite happened yet. You don't have that quote-unquote wide receiver one. Could this be the year? Jason, as you look at the pass catchers and evaluate where they are at, what do you make of them as we enter year 3 with Jordan Love as the starting quarterback?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys facing really pivotal seasons, right? I mean, not only, as you mentioned, Romeo Doubs, who, again, maybe I am just not very forgiving, or you've heard maybe I hold a grudge or two. And I don't hold any of them personally against Romeo Doubs, the guy.
Sure.
I think he's a different type of guy. So I don't hold a grudge against him for staying home from work and getting suspended the way he did. But I wonder if that is going to give them pause, combined with the concussions, about signing him to an extension, right? In my estimation, they have 9 guys right now on their roster at wide receiver who are worthy of an NFL roster spot, right? Assuming if and when Watson is healthy, it's Watson, it's Dobbs, it's Reed, it's Wicks, it's Melton, it's Malik Heath, it is Savion Williams, it is Matthew Golden, and it is McCole Hardman. Like, I think he is an NFL wide receiver still. I know he's dealt with issues the last few years injury-wise, but they're not keeping 9. There's not a lot that I know for certain. They're not going to have 9 wide receivers on their roster to open the year.
What about 8 and you put the other guy at corner?
Yeah, I do think Bo Melton has a role on this team. Now, again, could that be my bias that I just like him as a dude? Maybe. I've been guilty of that before.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going through what they have with him if they don't.
So I guess
my point was simply that it's big for the 2 guys that are in contract years. It's big for 2 guys that will be eligible for extensions after this year that haven't really made the jump. They need those 2 to make a year 3 jump. And then, of course, it's big for the 2 rookies to get off to a strong start.
I wrote this to Jason when he put Matthew Golden as number 19 on his top 20 list over at channel3000.com, 20 most important Packers for this season. To me, Matthew Golden should have been higher on that list because he's the only one who can be a star of that group. They've got a lot of good guys, but they don't have a lot of guys that can be great. He's got the potential with the athleticism that he has, the production he had at the college level. And sometimes I think we fall in love with, like, this idea that, oh, man, look at all these guys they have. But they're just kind of guys. It's not true depth. When we talk about Bo Melton and Malik Heath, yeah, they've had moments, but it makes me think of, I don't know if you'll remember this name, I believe his name was Charles Johnson, who was a wide receiver on the back part of the Packers roster that, oh man, we can't cut him. He's going to be too good. He's going to be really good. And then they finally cut him. He goes to Minnesota for like a half of a season, and that was it. He was out of the league.
I would have gone Torrey Gurley there.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Okay.
Another
one.
He was a training camp star who caught 1 NFL pass for Cleveland in his career.
So that's the way I kind of feel about Bo Melton. Yes, he was the first one to have 100 yards a while ago, but if he was really that good, he'd be playing more. Same thing with
I think he makes the team because of his special teams.
Correct.
Role.
Yes.
But again, that takes up a wide receiver spot.
Yes.
That might have gone to someone who is more likely to be productive in your. Now, here's the reason why I put Golden as low as I did, and primarily I wanted someone high profile early in the release of the list, and I wanted it to be a little controversial because I think you can make the argument very easily, as you did, of him being higher. I think I can argue against that, though. I think I can look at the track record of rookie wide receivers who became really good players. Now, again, they joined the team when there was a clear-cut number 1, but the one time that someone went out and had 60 catches as a rookie was in 2023 when Jaden Reed did it. How good is Jaden Reed? Because how good Jaden Reed is, how good Dontavion Wicks is, and how soon they get Christian Watson back, I do think factors into the number of opportunities that they're going to give Matthew Golden from the jump versus, say, down the stretch of the season.
The coaching staff doesn't think Jaden Reed's. They think he's a good player. They don't think he's that good based on his playing time. And I dove into this. So, excuse me while I pull out my little notes here. Because I was
just pulled out a sheet of paper.
I did.
Where did that come from? That's Gabe Neitzel's music.
I didn't want to bring my laptop, so I was kind of looking into this. So last year, Jaden Reed only played 63.2% of the snaps as a wide receiver, which out of context probably doesn't make a ton of, okay, what does that mean? So I looked at some of the other number 2 wide receivers in the division. Jamison Williams played 79.3% of his snaps. Rome Odunze, 84. Jordan Addison, 81.8. Jayden Reed has never reached any of those numbers that those guys are averaging in a single game. He's never played 80% of the snaps in a single game. And his snaps continued to go down as we went last year. You brought up Dontavian Wicks, who overall played a less percent of their snaps than Jayden Reed did last year.
What was Reed's number again? I'm sorry.
So Reed last year, 63.2%, which was second on the team.
And if I'm not mistaken, they didn't utilize him a lot in 2 wide receiver sets.
Correct, because they only trust him out of the slot. So Wicks ended up playing more than Reed in 5 of the last 6 games last season. Wow. So part of Reed's production wasn't just the drops. It was also the coaching staff wasn't putting him on the field for an opportunity to make plays. So I'm not looking at Jayden Reed as someone who's going to suddenly be somebody they trust on the outside if they're going to utilize more 2 tight end sets. I don't think Jayden Reed is somebody that, they like, and they think he can be a gadget player, but the way they used him last year was almost exclusively out of the slots.
I think there's one other factor that we have to include in that, and that is he was beat up for most of the season, not as an excuse for his production, but of how they may use him differently. You look at Savion Williams, he's 6'2", he's 220 pounds or whatever he is. Stop, and Matt LaFleur admitted this, and this was one of the things that came up after the draft, and then we obviously had the Drew Rosenhaus affair, etc. But look, Jayden Reed, he's got return skills. He's got a lot of appealing qualities. Stop running him on jet sweeps and pop passes, because sometimes they work and sometimes he gets absolutely obliterated by a tackler, and then he's walking around with a bad shoulder and a chest injury. Use him in a way that also protects him from being too nicked up to be productive. And I think Matt LaFleur has said that on the record, that is something they need to do a better job of. So maybe he has the same snap numbers, but he's used differently, and maybe that allows him to be more productive.
And maybe he can be productive, but playing that many snaps, you can't be a star.
Yeah, you're viewing that as a huge concern.
You can't be and he led the Packers.
Which is why he got a new agent, because he's going to be playing somewhere else in 2 seasons.
I look at him as, the coaching staff's not going to put him on the field enough for him to be a huge difference maker. To only play that many snaps. He only played 70 or more % of the snaps in 5 games last year. That's it.
And were they, just out of curiosity, I'm curious if that was games they were losing.
I would have to go back and look.
It's not on his little sheet.
It's not on the little sheet.
I mean, I see notes about Lucas Van Ness on that sheet, so I don't think this is the only appearance this sheet of paper is making.
We've got this for a number of things.
It's like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I looked aside.
Incredible.
Again, that was the number 2 receivers I was comparing him against to the other guys. Not even the number 1 guys.
So who played the most
teams.
snaps?
For the Packers at wide receiver,
Yeah.
Romeo Doubs, 77.1%.
A guy who we all kind of feel like is probably playing
entering his final
last season in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm. But again, he didn't even get to that 80% threshold that most number 2 receivers in the division.
Right. Which tells you what?
That they
don't see any of these guys as a number 1. And that's why Matthew Golden is on their team. But how soon will he be that guy is the question.
That's what I was about to get to, because I do think Matt LaFleur is going to fall in love with him, because I think he's going to be able to utilize him in so many different capacities, whether that's in the slot, whether that's outside, etc. I think Golden is going to have the ability to prove he can be the number 1 for this team for many years to come, and I think it will likely be quick. That's my prediction. I believe Matthew Golden will see a lot of playing time fast.
I hope you're right, because he has physical tools that all these guys don't have, right? Like, they all have one thing that we all kind of like. Oh,
good point.
Dontavian Wicks can get open. Oh, yeah. Christian Watson's got speed. Really good catching.
Yeah.
Great hands for Romeo Doubs. You've got the shiftiness of Jayden Reed. And you want to combine all those into one receiver, and then you've got a good one.
Jerry Rice.
Yeah,
right. Then you've got Jerry Rice.
Instead of just trying to mix and match the different matchups that they have. And as the season went along,
good point.
They trust it. I think Wicks was playing more because they trust him blocking, and they want him out there. And the drops started to go away, which is why his snap count numbers started to go up. So I think for Matthew Golden, it's how quick can you learn the playbook? How fast can you be comfortable on the outside? Because they're going to be running, I think, a lot of 2 tight end sets with Musgrave and with Kraft, because those are 2 guys they've shown they actually do trust. Musgrave when he's healthy, Kraft obviously with what he's been able to do the last season and a half.
Perfect transition, because I do want to shift gears over to the tight ends real quick, because Tucker Kraft is a guy that I think we all gush over, right, when we do our daily shows during the Packers season. That was a guy who really, really impressed last year. Can he get to a top 5, top 7 tight end in the league level this season is my big question when it comes to Tucker Kraft.
I think that's tough because there's a lot of really good tight ends in the league, but I think he can take that next step and be one of the top production guys for the Packers, just based on the way that they've talked about him and wanting him to get more involved. And again, some of that is off the play action stuff. Some of that is him owning the middle part of the field. Chewy talks about this all the time, where in the play, I've got it memorized, Fox 2XY hook. Chewy knew that play was called, he's getting the football. That was a bread and butter play they ran back in the 90s. And when we watch stuff for all 22, he's like, I don't see any bread and butter plays. Like, I don't see something that they consistently go to. And, yep, this is how we're getting this guy involved. And I think they're going to find those plays for Tucker Kraft this year.
I agree with everything Gabe said.
He's cooking this segment.
He is, and it's not all written down on his little sheet. I would also add this, though. The one thing I worry about with Tucker Kraft is kind of the same thing I worry about with Josh Jacobs. And, look, those two guys are tone setters with their physicality. But when you are that physical, you do put yourself at risk. And my helicopter beat writer instincts start to take over because I think Tucker Kraft is special. I think he's, I got a lot of grief. I made a number of comparisons last season. I think most of them held pretty well, right? Xavier McKinney had a Charles Woodson-esque effect.
Impact.
They don't play the same position. He didn't have a bunch of touchdowns. But that comp and the way he was credited with being the guy who got Jair to straighten up and fly right until he had the knee injury, okay? I made the comp between Evan Williams and Micah Hyde, and the first person to confirm that after I got grief from Tausch was Evan Williams, who said he used to watch film of him all the time, and he patterned his game after him. And then on your show, I said Tucker Kraft is more like Chewy because he can do everything. And that is that is the type of tight end I want. I like Luke Musgrave. He's got more J-Mike to him, right?
In terms of what?
In terms of being able to run down the seam and get.
He's not going to block.
Also part of the
equation.
Receiving
tight end. Yeah.
Well, probably knows the plays better though. But the bottom line is that Tucker Kraft does everything, and he doesn't do anything at less than 110%, and that does concern me. That he played all 17 games last season, but he did it after tearing a pec. My expectation for him is he's not going to change the way he plays.
No.
So they have to protect him again from himself a little bit.
So to put a bow on the state of the pass catchers.
What are you, Tausch?
What?
To put a bow on it? That's his big line. He loves that line.
Got to put a bow on everything.
Got to put a bow on it.
Well, I'm attempting to put a bow on it. The state of the pass catchers.
That's a shot from me interrupting.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
That's exactly what that was, yes. To put a bow on the state of the pass catchers.
Also something that Tausch has a problem with you.
Jason, would you agree that the state of the pass catchers is a healthy state as we enter 2025?
It absolutely is. I'm not quite as down on how good these guys can become as Gabe might be based on his little scribblings.
Because Jaden Reed, yes.
Well, Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks, I'm going to go down with that ship. I'm still waiting. I think Robert Ferguson is really going to be a good player.
my former neighbor.
I was a big believer in him, too. It never really came together for him either. But my point is that I like these guys a little bit more. I would love to have seen what, say, two of them would have done had they just been the number one and number two like most teams have. But the Goody plan, I think in some ways is smart and in some ways stunts growth. Because you know how you get better at playing football?
Wait, I think I know this one.
I think you do too.
You play football.
Bingo.
Football. And you can't play them all at the same. You can't have six wides on the field at once.
Right.
And so I'm eager to see what jump these guys make because I do believe in the Homer rule. And we have seen glimpses from all of them when they've been young players. And to Gabe's point earlier, they ain't young players anymore. You're in year 3, year 4. It's time to produce and produce in a big way. The growth is not linear. No longer really applies. You're still growing, but you got to produce.
If you're looking for a new contract, you're not a young player anymore.
Right.
That's a fact.
Right.
Gabe Neitzel, the final word on the state of the pass catchers.
I think it's in a decent spot. I don't think it's as healthy as the quarterback and running back. And it comes down to how much are these guys going to grow? How quickly can Matthew Golden get up to speed? Can Luke Musgrave stay healthy? I understand a lot of that has been odd injuries, right? It's not like, oh, he's got a hamstring, he's got a calf injury.
He's got a kidney.
He's got a lacerated kidney. Oh, what? You can do that? I didn't know. So I think
in blood.
So I think it's a matter of, those guys staying healthy and then also actually taking that step forward that they were unable to do a year ago.
As somebody who had a kidney stone this week, kidneys, not fun to mess with.
Cranberry juice.
That's what I've heard. And utilized, in fact.
Good for you.
State of the offensive line is coming up next.
What would we have done if he hadn't been available? Did you pass it?
How old are you? A
What?
kidney stone?
Yeah, I had a big weekend last weekend.
Forward, Grandpa Strouf.
More State of the Packers. We take a look at the state of the offensive line. Coming up next live from Summerfest, Jason Wilde, Gabe Neitzel, Alex Strouf hanging out with you right here on ESPN Wisconsin.
The State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. All day, every day. The Carbless Talk and Text line is open for you.
First off, there is not one team that's on the fringe that scares me.
800-990-3776. The Carbless Talk and Text line. This is more. Your state, your teams, your ESPN. The ESPN Wisconsin app. Customizable just for you. Find the ESPN Wisconsin app in the Apple or Android app stores today.
Monica, we've got to hand it to you.
You and the design team have outdone yourselves.
Are you talking about the One collection?
Those rings say you are the one.
And they say it symbolically.
Describe the symbols.
Every ring in the One collection should be presented with a special ritual.
What would that ritual be?
You pick up her left hand and you place a kiss on her ring finger.
Rick, you never told me about that part.
Then you show her the tiny red diamond, flush mounted inside the ring, that will forever be in contact with her finger.
Why is it red?
Because that's when the giver says to the one, wherever you go, my heart goes with you.
I give you this kiss. I give you my heart.
The red diamond is a secret symbol of that sacred moment.
The center diamond on the outside of the ring is for the whole world to see.
But the tiny red created diamond inside the ring is only for the two of them.
The One collection of engagement rings is available exclusively at Kessler's.
To find the Kessler's nearest you,
visit KesslersDiamonds.com.
Forget average. At Exterior Pros, they bring the heat. They're not here to meet standards, they're here to smash them. From the first swing of the hammer to the final reveal, they're leveling up your home with every window, every shingle, and every single detail. This isn't just a remodel, it's a glow up for your house. Built tough, built beautiful, built to turn heads. Want in? Let's go. Lock in your project now and save $3,000. Exterior Pros, where bold meets built. Trust the pros and visit extpros.com or call 262-800-4274.
Kevin Morat, Mentality founder here with a wake-up call. You're running on fumes, gentlemen. Just 1/3 of the free testosterone you need. That's why you're drained, defeated, and disgusted with your progress. But here's the truth. Mentality doctors specialize in epic comebacks. Our clients show an increase of 30% testosterone levels within the first month. We don't just treat men, we reignite lives. Just imagine the focus, energy, and drive being restored. Your comeback starts now. Don't wait. Make this your best year yet. Start today at mentalityhealth.com/radio.
Hey, this is Brad Nortman, here to tell you about my friends at Bank 5-9. Everywhere I go throughout the area, I see Bank 5-9, and it's no wonder why. Not only do they have 14 branch locations, but their employees spend nearly 9,000 hours each year volunteering in the communities that they serve. That's on top of the financial support that they provide to several hundred nonprofits right here in southeastern Wisconsin. If you're looking for a true local community bank, check them out today at bank59.com. Member FDIC.
True Chicago-style pizza is thin, crispy, and cut into squares. And thanks to Connie's Frozen Pizza, you can enjoy a true slice of the city. You'll enjoy it so much you won't even mind where it comes from. Connie's Frozen Pizzas are made from the same cornmeal crust Connie's has been serving for over 60 years. They're perfectly cheesy, perfectly saucy, and they're exactly what you crave. Get to know the true Chicago style with Connie's Frozen Pizza. Born in Chicago, loved by cheeseheads. Available in a freezer aisle near you.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
This is the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
State of the Packers 2025, a week removed from the Killers at Anthem Amphitheater. I saw you from afar.
Oh, really?
I saw your wife.
He didn't even come say hi.
I saw your wife. But
Okay.
you know, it was kind of a weird setup up in the lawn, so
Yeah.
I didn't want to get up and come say hi to you, but I saw you from afar. It looked like you were having a great time.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Really fun show.
First time I had been to an amphitheater show in probably close to a year, or close to 10 years, I want to say.
First time I've ever been to an amphitheater show.
really?
Actually. Believe it, as the Summerfest aficionado I am, that was the first amphitheater show I've been to. Killers were awesome. Brandon Flowers was terrific. Anyway, State of the Packers 2025. Jason Wilde was not a part of that conversation, but he is here. Gabe Neitzel, Alex Strouf with you. Do you have any thoughts on the Killers?
Well, so Tausch had secured top flight tickets, and Evan Cohen, our teammate and the star,
who's at Wimbledon today, by the way.
Yeah, he's a big deal. The star of Unsportsmanlike couldn't go, so Tausch had extra tickets, and he presumed that Paula and I would not be available. Look, I want to be very clear. He is an absolute star on our show, and I love the guy. Love him. His Hansel and Gretel portrait that he gave me for Christmas was not a great gift. He could have won. He could have made up for it with 2 tickets
to the Killers
that were available for him. He gave them to somebody else because he didn't think I'd be available. I said I actually would have been. Could have been a problem in our show relationship, but I'm forgiving that way.
No,
but
you're not. You're like the biggest grudge holder ever.
Yeah, but not with him because he's really my meal ticket.
Only, only if
fair
you
point.
truly wrong Jason.
Yeah, it takes a lot, and let's be honest, I'd have been regretting it the next morning when I was overtired. But I have heard nothing but incredible reviews.
Very good.
And they're one of my favorite bands. So I
real quick before we get to State of the Offensive Line. So I had Evan Cohen on our Saturday show last week, the day after the Killers concert, and he told the story. He was laying in bed, he was going to sleep, and he received a FaceTime from Mark Tauscher, and Tausch had the camera on himself, not the stage, live from the Killers when he FaceTimed Evan. So Evan was listening to Human, which is, I believe, the intro to your show, if I'm not mistaken. Human by the Killers is the intro music.
It was, no, we don't have, I don't know what we have now. Jesse came up with it, but before that, it was the Money song. It was a song about money. Anyway,
but regardless, he called him during one of these songs, and Tausch is staring into his phone rather than having the camera on the stage. I just thought that was very old man behavior by Mark Tauscher, who, of course, made his career as the right tackle of the Green Bay Packers. It is time now. Thank you, Jason. It's time now for the state of the offensive line of the Green Bay Packers. Josh Myers is out as the center. He is no longer a Green Bay Packer. Aaron Banks is in as the new left guard. Elton Jenkins, we know will slide over to center. That's just assuming he gets paid first. He wants his guaranteed money as he moves from left guard.
Just wants money that he's already got in his contract to be guaranteed.
Yep.
Don't think it's a big ask.
Don't think it's a big ask either. Jordan Morgan, of course, last year's first-round pick, could not crack the starting lineup last year. He will attempt to do so again this year at left tackle in a battle with Rasheed Walker this training camp. But the Packers invested in their offensive line. It's as simple as that. This offseason also spending a second-round pick on Anthony Melton. Is that his name? Did I get that right?
Yes.
From
Belton.
NC State? Belton. Not Bo Melton. Belton.
Bo Melton. Anthony Belton.
That's confusing. Okay. Regardless, lots of investment. Aaron Banks and Belton.
If you start calling him Mo Belton, then we'll really have problems.
That's correct. Tone Belton in the second round.
Beltone. There you go. That's how you'll remember it.
That is. Thank you very much for that. The offensive line was upgraded this offseason, correct? We would all agree?
Like, how soon can I get out of here? Can I just get my major cheeseburger and leave?
And get out of here. Phonics with Strouf.
It has been, look, it's been changed. We'll see if it's been upgraded, right? Like, sure. if you start Jordan Morgan at left tackle instead of Rasheed Walker.
Is that an upgrade?
Is that an upgrade? I think Elton Jenkins is an upgrade at center over Josh Myers, and you certainly paid Banks to be an upgrade at left guard, and he's getting paid more than the guy that was playing left guard. Will he be an upgrade? I don't know. That looked like a lot of money to give a guy whose resume does not have any of the accomplishments that most guys that get paid have. Now, that said, that's right on brand with Goody, right? Goody's brand is, I am not paying guys that have accomplished things. I'm paying guys that I think are going to. Like Zadarius Smith had done next to nothing. I think he had an 8-sack season,
which is his career high right before he came to Green.
Right. So I'm not saying that Banks will be a disappointing signing. I'm just saying I don't know if I'm comfortable stating as fact that they upgraded their offensive line. They have certainly made changes to it.
They need to figure out these issues that they have contract-wise with their guys, because first of all, with Elton Jenkins, just guaranteeing a little bit of his money to guarantee that he's going to be here, because the money he's making is a lot of money for a center. Hey, I want to make sure I'll slide over, I'll do what's best for the team, but now you got to do something that's right for me. That seems like a fair negotiation. And then with Zach Tom, I don't know why Goody refuses to learn the lesson of taking care of things earlier rather than later. Didn't take care of it early with Davante Adams, loses Davante Adams. Now we find this situation where, okay, I'm not going to take care of this situation, and the longer you wait, the more expensive. It's not going to get cheaper if you're waiting to sign Zach Tom as your right tackle, because what happens if Zach Tom, who's now going to be healthy this year, has a healthy season and gets a couple more votes and becomes second-team All-Pro, or heaven forbid, first-team All-Pro? You know how expensive that's going to get for you because you refuse to pay the guy who would have been the third-team All-Pro right tackle a year ago? Like, this is the lesson that Jerry Jones has refused to learn, that the Cincinnati Bengals have refused to learn. This is not the company you want to be keeping when it comes to signing your own guys.
Wow. Maybe I'm going to leave and get a major cheeseburger.
He's on fire. Yeah, I fully agree with you. And, you know.
You should do nationals.
Heard him when I got home from the bar last night. He was doing national stuff.
You were in bed by 9:30.
I was.
Oh, okay.
I was on at 9.
Oh, okay. Till?
Midnight.
Ooh. And now you're back here at it with us knuckleheads. I wish I had more to add to that.
He nailed it.
But again, I don't like. There's an old person saying, which I've now established that I am, after being told by one of the fest goers that I wouldn't know any of the bands that she was looking to get some sort of a wristband for. If you're going to ask for a wristband, you got to be nicer to me, and we don't have them anyway. But it's called penny wise but pound foolish. And they can save these pennies. It's a British thing, pounds. But the reality is, it's going to cost you more in the end. And Gabe's exactly right. Here's what bothers me about Zach Tom, and I know we had this conversation on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy as well. You know, in one way, you're all over Jair Alexander for not playing through the knee injury. Here's Zach Tom, who plays an entire season after tearing his pec in April. He never gets the strength back. He can't bench to rebuild the strength during the season. He has to play a different type of game. He, by his own admission, does not have his best season, even though Pro Football Focus had him with his highest grade. He finished with the third most votes at right tackle for All-Pro voting, and yet you don't take care of him now. You know, I had a conversation with Homer last week, too, about the Elton Jenkins situation. You don't have to win every negotiation. You know, you want to have the flexibility. I get it. They want to have the flexibility that if this doesn't go well, that they can part ways with him after the 2025 season. First of all, if he's on the roster on opening day, he's going to be guaranteed his base salary for this season. So you guarantee that amount. You guarantee a little bit of money from 2026. And if it doesn't work out and you decide that you want to go a different direction at center, fine. But instead of having him miss the entire offseason program, instead of having it hanging over your head, do the right thing by the guy and be done with it. You yourself, Goody, said that he would be an all-pro center. If you feel that strongly about him, put your money where your mouth is, and yet still you add a couple of dummy years to the contract. If you need to move on from him, you can. And those two things should be resolved. The Anthony Belton not being signed yet because only 4 second-round picks have signed because they all want guaranteed deals now.
Somebody got a guaranteed one, and now all of them want a guaranteed one.
Right, and I don't blame them for that. But that one's a little harder to avoid. The other two, to me, those are what we like to call unforced errors. They could be resolved.
And I would just say, because Ron Wolf had a theory of he wasn't really going to pay his offensive line because they didn't score touchdowns. He wanted to save his money for that. So I would say, okay, maybe he's doing that, except
he's not paying them either.
You went outside of the organization to pay somebody.
Right.
And so that's obviously not what they're doing either. So I don't know why you'd be willing to pay someone like Aaron Banks, but not being willing to pay. It's not like Zach Tom. If Zach Tom was closer to 30, going on to a third contract, I think I'd understand.
Like Elton Jenkins.
Yep, I'd understand a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't it the dream to draft somebody as good as Zach Tom in the 4th round?
Sure is.
So you can eventually pay that person?
Bingo. So, to your point, you have 3 starters from last year entering contract years on this offensive line. Zach Tom, we do believe will be back, I would assume. We would all agree they will eventually extend him. This will not be his last season.
I don't know that.
I can't say that with all certainty.
Wow. So we've lost, because I feel like, at least during last season, we all operated like that was going to be a foregone conclusion, but they haven't locked him up yet.
There was a time before Romeo Doubs stayed home from work that week. The question was, who will they extend first, Romeo Doubs or Zach Tom? Now, I don't know if they extend either of them. I would certainly hope that we are just being alarmist and that Zach Tom, who I don't think should take the field for training camp without
Absolutely
a contract,
not.
I agree with you.
Absolutely not.
will get taken care of. But again, if they don't do that and they choose to play hardball, they're cutting off their nose, in my opinion, to spite their face. So he needs to get taken care of. The other part of it is, I would argue, look, use Jordan Morgan as your 6th man because your guys are not going to all stay healthy all season long. Have them train at both tackle and both guard spots and let Rasheed Walker start one more year because you don't want to pay him? Great. Let someone else pay him and take the compensatory draft pick you get for him signing big money.
So you vote this will be Rasheed Walker's last season in green and gold.
Yeah, and
Gabe,
then
you
the other
agree?
one obviously is Sean Ryan,
Yep.
who I think is also a better player than he probably gets credit for. And what I love about Sean Ryan, he's got a little bit of Scott Wells to him. They keep trying to give away his job, and he keeps winning it back anyway. Him and Rasheed Walker have both done that, and I have a lot of respect for guys who do that.
I tend to agree, but will they be Packers when we are talking
there
next year?
Will be one of the 3, I would think.
And I would think it's Zach Tom.
You would certainly think
It better be Zach Tom.
And hope.
It better be Zach Tom. But again, apparently he's in a competition for his job, according to the coaching staff. And
right?
So
that was one of the weirdest things I've had happen.
So based on
when we talked to Adam Stenovich during the offseason,
who's the offensive coordinator,
and
of course,
and Luke Butkus, the offensive line coach, both doubled down on basically saying that Zach Tom is in a competition at right tackle. And I thought when Steno said it the first time, I thought he misspoke, but then he circled back and said it again, so he clearly didn't. And I don't know if that's a negotiating ploy or what that is, but if your best offensive lineman is having to compete for his job, I understand the NFL is a competitive business, but again, there's a line between you have to compete and you want to feel appreciated. And the idea that you should be getting an extension, and instead the coaching staff is talking about you as a guy who's competing to keep his starting job, that feels like a disconnect to me.
I'm not going to lie. If it is a negotiating play,
it's not a good one.
It's not a good one.
It's not a good one, but I'd kind of feel a little bit better because then maybe the coaching staff and some of those other silos are actually communicating.
Bravo.
Cooking up, this guy.
Yeah, he's having a good show. I'll give him that. All right, that is the state of the offensive line. When we return in 2 minutes, we will put a bow on the state of the offense. I'm a big bow guy.
Hugh and Tausch.
Big bow guys. Although I don't
like
bow
big
ties.
bows, and I cannot lie.
Remember when I rapped on that commercial?
Believe me.
I pretend not to.
I hear it every day.
I love you guys. We will put a bow on the state of the offense right after this. It's State of the Packers 2025 live from Summerfest right here on ESPN Wisconsin.
Bikers need protection, not just from other drivers, but unfortunately from insurance companies too. If you've been injured in a motorcycle crash, call Gruber Law Offices today. Bikers are often blamed for causing the accident because the insurance companies simply don't want to pay. At Gruber Law Offices, we've been fighting for injured bikers and their families for more than 30 years. Trust us to fight for what you deserve. Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all.
Hi, Drew and Jonathan Scott here. American Family Insurance can help protect your dream home for whatever comes next. You can live in your own oasis or your own clubhouse. Whatever you choose, get the right coverage. Save up to 23% by bundling home and auto. Life's better when you're under American Family's roof. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly. Get a quote and find an agent at amfam.com.
Visit amfam.com to learn how discounts may apply to you. Products not available in every state. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI and its operating companies. 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
It's party time at Cousins Subs. For a limited time only, Cousins 2-foot party subs are back. Choose from the club, ham and provolone, Italian special, or turkey. Each party sub is just $39.99. Feeds 5 to 8 people and requires 24-hour notice to order. And now you can complete your party by adding a party chip bag and a dozen chocolate chip cookies for just $4.99. Order today in store, online, or on the app. Cousins Subs. We believe in better.
My house has a new glow. I love my windows. Universal Windows Direct.
Hey, it's Kyle Wallace. Choose from payments as low as $99 a month or 12 months with no payments and no interest, plus a free in-home window and energy assessment. Restrictions apply. Call 414-410-2000.
I love my windows. They've got that brand new home effect. Universal Windows Direct.
Hey, this is Brad Nortman from KBN. Tune in to Kyle Bruston Nortman from 2 to 5 every day. WKTI and WKTI HD Milwaukee.
A locally owned Good Karma brand station. Ladies and gentlemen, cheeseheads of all ages, we're gathered here today to assess the health of a nation.
I think we're capable of being a really good football team, a really good competitive football team, but it's not just going to happen.
A nation responsible for 4 Super Bowls.
The Green Bay Packers have won the Super Bowl. The Lombardi Trophy is coming home.
29 Hall of Famers.
40 yards.
It is a touchdown for Leroy Butler.
Sterling Sharp's 3rd touchdown of the game.
And for being one of the most historic franchises in all of professional sports.
I'd like to welcome you all, of course, and tell you how proud we are to have you a part of the Packers, just as you should be proud to be here, to be a part of this team.
Live from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Zone on the grounds of Summerfest, this is the State of the Packers. Alongside Gabe Neitzel and 3-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year Jason Wilde, here's Alex Strouf.
State of the Packers 2025, live from the world's largest music festival, Summerfest, at the Gruber Law Office's Sports Zone, inside the Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin mobile studio. I'm Alex Strouf, alongside the great Gabe Neitzel, who you hear on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, and every other program in the country, but typically daily, 7 to 9 on 94.5 ESPN at Milwaukee. He is the 3-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year and our Packers guy. He is Jason Wilde from Wilde and Tausch, weekdays from 9 to noon. We have gone through every position group on the offense. So I just want to ask this question, and then we will
pivot,
shift our focus.
Put a bow on it.
Put a bow on the offense. We will shift our focus to the defense in just a moment. Who is under the most pressure on the Packers offense this year, in terms of the Packers offense this year?
Gabe Neitzel, you're the hottest. You go last.
Yeah, I'll go last.
So who's under the most pressure? In terms of players, or can I say Matt LaFleur?
That's going to be my answer.
I think it's Matt LaFleur because
I'll come up with a different one.
He's he has the pressure of trying to marry a lot of the things that were kind of new to this offense last year that we talked about with the different blocking, running out of shotgun, trying to make that work with some of the play action stuff he wants, plus the growth of the wide receivers. Maybe that's paring down and going, hey, these are the guys that are going to get the most playing time, and then once there's injuries, we'll backfill because we feel good about Wicks or Dobbs or whoever ends up being out there and whoever ends up being those backups. But he's got a lot of pressure to combine what he did before Josh Jacobs, now with Josh Jacobs, to make this offense be able to live up to the full potential that it has.
Jason?
You're having such a great show. Seriously, like if I wasn't one of the founders of this show in existence, I'd be like, I'm going to go see
Baby metal.
Indian rock band that she was telling me about. Since you already took the correct answer, you and I will have to come up with somebody different. I feel good about my choice. I think it's Jordan Love.
Yeah.
No one is debating whether or not he's a good NFL quarterback. But you're getting $55 million a year, which is the cost of doing business. Your contract number and the expenses associated with that go up after this year. It is time to be the guy. And I had a great conversation with Josh Jacobs earlier in the offseason where he talked about how he had that conversation with Jordan Love. Now, I believe Jordan Love is capable of that. He still has to do it, though, right? And we have seen like we've seen, and look, I could make a list of 12 guys on this team that are players, not Goody, not LaFleur, who, again, because of ed policy and not wanting to have lame duck seasons, this is a critical year for them too. But I would say there's probably a dozen players on this roster that are in really pivotal, fulcrum-type seasons. But I think Jordan Love, it's not a fulcrum-type season for Jordan Love on whether or not he's going to be in the league or whether he's going to be their starting quarterback. It's whether he's going to be the Jordan Love that we all think he's capable of being on an extended basis. I don't think he's going to end up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If I am wrong, great. But that is part of the problem when you have Favre. And I was reading something yesterday from Pro Football Journal, which is a bunch of the older guys that were like the writers when I was first starting out, right? Guys that I really respect. They had Aaron Rodgers at 10th on the all-time list of great quarterbacks, and Favre did not make the top 10.
Wow.
So think about how spoiled we are as radio hosts, as a beat writer, as fans. So when I say that Jordan Love, I don't think is going to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer, people take offense to that, and I'm like, okay. I don't know if he'll win an MVP or not. But he's got to play at a closer level toward that top 5 quarterback, MVP candidate type player. So I think, and I think that's one of the reasons why Matt LaFleur has been cautious with what he said, both about this team and about his quarterback, to not put more pressure on him.
Before I give my answer, I just want to say, undeniably, I think those are the top 2 answers. Right? I think Matt LaFleur is under the most pressure to prove he can make this offense win and score points. I think Jordan Love is under a ton of pressure because he's got to be that dude, to your point. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route. I think it's Matthew Golden. Spending a first-round pick on a wide receiver that hopefully finally solves your problem of having a bona fide stud in that room. He's obviously under a lot of pressure because there's expectations that come along with being the 23rd overall pick in the NFL draft. He's under pressure because fans are longing for a wide receiver one, and I know that's a term Matt LaFleur apparently hates, but it's real.
Yeah, he gave me the vomit line, and then they go out and draft one, and he's really excited about it. So let me know again how much you're vomiting when you hear that term.
When you hear Mark Murphy say, for the first time in 23 years, I don't think he was vomiting on that chilly night in April in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So I think Matthew Golden just has a lot of expectations on him, and I think that puts him under the microscope quite a bit, being the first-round pick and hopefully injecting some new blood into that wide receiver room. So that would be who I'd pick third.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what his I don't want to fast forward to this through
the season. It's a beautiful mystery.
Because I do love the journey.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm paid to chronicle. But I really want to get to January and say, hey, this is the kind of season Matthew Golden had, because I can see him catching 40 balls because somebody emerges that's more experienced, and I can see him catching 65 balls and us saying, all right, they got their stud.
Yep.
We know now that he's the guy.
This is a bit of revisionist history, but for whatever reason, and maybe this just tells you what my timeline's like on Twitter.
Oh, boy.
There were highlights of the Packers-Cowboys playoff game for 2014 that came across. Davante Adams had a huge game that game. As a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
He had that game. He had that
the New
great
England
game against New England when Bill Belichick basically said, hey, I'm taking away Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. See if this kid can beat us.
And he did.
And then obviously he had that rough patch before he became the Davante Adams we knew. But when you go back and now you see that, you go, oh, yeah. There's something there with just the way he moves, the way he had the ball in his hands. That's what I'm hoping to see from Matthew Golden. I'm not going, oh, I think he's going to have 1,300 yards this year. Just a few of those moments you're going, oh, yeah, this guy has what it takes to potentially be special.
We shift our focus to the second year under Jeff Hafley's defense, and buckle up because the conversation we're having coming up next is going to be an interesting one. It is time to talk state of the defensive line.
That's not interesting. That's easy.
More importantly, you took some shrapnel on our show because Tausch heard the promo and you said new look defense.
I may have misspoke. I was probably just reffing. It's year 2 under the new look defense.
Yeah, he criticized you pretty
harshly.
harshly.
It's not new look anymore.
I still think it's new. It's only season 2. You guys would disagree with that?
Well, we'll talk about it.
Next. It's State of the Packers live from Summerfest.
You're listening to the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. All day, every day. The Carbless Talk and Text line is open for you.
First off, there is not one team that's on the fringe that scares me.
800-990-3776. The Carbless Talk and Text line. This is more. Station updates, show clips, and your place to interact with us every single day just by scrolling through your feed. Follow along on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at ESPN Milwaukee.
Are you going to do something today?
Yes, I am.
And what exactly might that be?
My plan is to sit here and enjoy our amazing new patio set from Steinhoffel's.
Steinhoffel's 4th of July sale is going on now. Take 10% off store-wide, plus an extra $100 off every $999 you spend. But don't wait too long because this sale ends soon.
Now, would you be a sweetheart and get me another lemonade? I have to stay hydrated.
Steinhoffel's 4th of July sale, going on now.
Dear employer,
my name is Phil Martin.
My name is Michael Roskovich.
Ronaldo Bird.
Zach Deiser.
I am writing to express my excitement at the opportunity to join your team.
As someone on the spectrum,
I possess a unique set of skills
that sets me apart from other candidates.
My detail-oriented nature allows me to communicate complex ideas,
to break down data,
to have no fear in meeting new people.
I may communicate in ways that are different from what you are used to.
Structure, routine,
and clear expectation.
Help me do my best work.
My autism allows me to have a perspective that needs to be seen and heard.
It allows me to make the world safer and improve systems in ways others can't.
It allows me to bring people's inner worlds to life with my artwork.
My autism
will bring your team important insights.
Thank you for your consideration.
An autistic inclusive workplace is good for business. It's time to make a change. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/win.
Erica, it's good to see you.
How are things at our amazing Germantown location?
Absolutely fantastic.
We heard you had a bold idea. What is it?
We're celebrating our 45th year in business, so I think we should give away some natural diamonds.
Wow, that is a bold idea. How many and how big?
3/4 of a carat. 9 natural diamonds, each one clarity enhanced for maximum brilliance. 1 diamond for each store.
How should we mount them, Erica?
We'll give them away as diamond pendants.
So each of the 9 Kessler stores will have their own diamond pendant to give away?
Yeah, and all a person will have to do is to walk into a store and register to win.
Can a person travel to all 9 stores and register at each one?
Yeah, why not? And people will have from now until July 28th to register.
I'm in.
Me too. It's unanimous, and people should bring in all their old jewelry so that we can professionally clean it for them for free.
That makes so much difference.
For the location of the Kesslers nearest you, visit KesslersDiamonds.com.
The only thing that tops our selection is your savings discount liquor.
Ever notice how wine enthusiasts often speak a completely different language? And while that language may technically be English, to most people it's anything but. Hi, this is Marie from Discount Liquor, where we stock over 8,000 varieties of wine and speak many dialects of wine English to help everyone, from the wine novice to the master sommelier. So if you need an expert recommendation for wine, or maybe you know what you want and simply need help locating it, our experienced staff has got your back. No matter the budget, occasion, or your level of wine expertise, Discount Liquor will make you feel at home. Discount Liquor, unmatched selection, everyday low prices, a helpful staff, and 2 convenient locations. In Milwaukee on 51st and Oklahoma, and in downtown Waukesha on Barstow and Maine.
Discount Liquor.
This is the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
State of the Packers 2025. Alex Strouf, Jason Wilde, Gabe Neitzel hanging out with you live from Summerfest, and Summerfest is incomplete without a stop at Major Goolsby's, which Jason, Gabe, and I indulged in that past commercial breaks. If you're coming to Summerfest, you got to stop by our friends at Major Goolsby's. It just hits different at Summerfest. Whether you're looking for chicken wings, burgers, cheese, I love their cheese curds, French fries, all the in-betweens. Major Goolsby's has you covered on a beautiful day, a beautiful final day here at Summerfest. So thanks to our friends at Major Goolsby's. It is time now to take a look at the state of the defense, and we will start with the state of the defensive line coming off of a rather rough season in year one under defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. They make a change at defensive line coach this offseason to Marcus Covington, the new defensive line coach for the Green Bay Packers. But other than that, we're running it back. No additions in the draft, at least meaningful additions in the draft until day 3. No free agent signings, no trade for Trey Hendrickson or TJ Watt. It's Rashawn Gary, it's Kenny Clark, it's Devontae Wyatt, who they picked up the 5th-year option on this offseason, and it's Lucas Van Ness. The state of the defensive line is a scary one, Gabriel.
Yeah, it's bad. It's not good. It's not good because you're paying your best pass rusher probably a little too much money because he just couldn't live up to the potential that he showed, and it's scary to think that the best he was coming so close off that ACL because he vaulted up the year coming off the ACL right on Thanksgiving. He had 9 sacks. 9 sacks. Mm-hmm. Then nothing the rest of the year that year. Last year he only ends up getting 8 sacks. Yes, he gets his first Pro Bowl nomination and nod, but he's not good enough. Kenny Clark, now we know there were some injury issues with him. He wasn't good enough. And Lucas Van Ness, he's been disappointing through 2 years. And I know that when they drafted him, much like Rashawn Gary, it was, okay, this guy has a lot of the physical tools that you need to be a really good pass rusher. He just didn't have the actual ability, and they were hoping they could coach that into him. And yes, I know he was dealing with a thumb injury, but there's no excuse to me for being a top 15 pick in this league and getting blocked on multiple occasions one-on-one by a tight end.
Yep.
And that happened a couple of times last year. In fact, he had as many sacks as Keyshawn Nixon had. They both had 3 last season, so I don't have a lot of hope for that group. I think they did a pretty good job against the run, which is something that we always harped on when Joe Barry was the defensive coordinator. I think that
without a doubt,
schematically switching to the 4-3 certainly helped, I think, in that area. But at the end of the day, the teams that are the best can get pressure with 4, and this group cannot do that.
Yeah, you saw what the Eagles were able to do against the Packers offense. There was an opportunity in that game with as rusty, which was part of the equation, that their quarterback was. The defense held the Eagles to 16 points for 3+ quarters of the game, but the Packers could not protect Love. They obviously had the injury to Elton Jenkins, but it is a game changer when you can get pressure with 4. It gives you so much more flexibility in the back end. But now, to Jeff Hafley's credit, and this is one of the storylines of the season, he figured out a way to be a really good defense in spite of not getting that. And the worst part of their sack numbers is that they're so misleading because they got so many of them in just a handful of games that they actually make it look like they had a decent year. They finished tied for 8th in actual number of sacks, but I think 9 were against Tennessee. Like, they weren't good enough. And look, Rashawn Gary, whether it's fair or not, Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness, when you're picked 12th overall and 13th overall, when you get the $96 million contract that Rashawn Gary received then, if the expectations are higher for you. There's no two ways about it. And you can say, well, you can't just measure their impact by sacks. Nobody says that about Trey Hendrickson. Nobody says that about Myles Garrett. Nobody says that about TJ Watt.
How come the highest paid guys are the ones that have the most sacks?
Yeah. Well, not all of them.
Riddle me this.
And so, look, I think Rashawn Gary talked about his Pro Bowl nomination. Again, I'm sorry, but I don't see that as a legitimate measure of where he's at in terms of being a field tilting player, which is what they need him to be.
Rashawn Gary's good. He's a good player.
Yes, he's a good player.
But and this is something that Chewy talks about, and it's one of my favorite points he always makes when he's talking about football teams. In order to have a successful season, you need your A players to play like A players.
Bingo.
He's an A player. He is being paid and is being expected to be an A player.
And
realistically, he's a B player.
Yep.
Which is fine. Obviously you're going to have B players. You're not going to have A players everywhere. But when you're being paid to be an A player, you're expected to be an A player, and you play like a B player, now somebody else has to make up for that. And they haven't had anybody that's been able to do that.
On the interior, could this be Kenny Clark's last season as a Packer?
Oh, it absolutely could be. For sure. And look, Kenny did not say anything about his foot issue. He was on the injury report, but he always played, didn't miss a game.
Yep.
And again, Kenny, we love to tease Kenny. because he still hasn't celebrated his 30th birthday yet. But that is going to occur in, I believe, October.
Yep.
And what do we know about Goody and 30-year-old players? What do we know about Goody and third contracts? He got one of those because he was so young when he entered the league. But, look, they need Devontae Wyatt to play like a first-round pick. And in fairness to Devontae Wyatt, he played like one for like the first 4 games, and he hurt his ankle.
Against the Vikings,
and he was just never the same player. And then he was finally starting to look like he was maybe recapturing that, and then their season ended in Philadelphia.
Yep.
So, he's another one of those, I talked earlier about this dozen or so guys. Him and Quay Walker, who I know we'll get to when we get to linebackers, those guys, in my little cheat code on my 20 most important Packers, I'm telling you right now, I put those two together because they both were first-round picks that are, in Quay's case, entering the final year of his contract because he didn't get the fifth-year option. And in Devontae Wyatt's case, he wouldn't have gotten one either if it wasn't for his being far less expensive than what Quay Walker's was. So both of those guys, again, they have to do more. And I think that's almost the theme, Gabe, of this team, is that they got a lot of good players that have to be more than just how good they've been.
Yeah. And to me, Brian Gutekunst has done a good job of drafting really solid players. Like really good, starters across the league, right? And even if you don't pay Sean Ryan, like somebody else is going to pay Sean Ryan. Not the way that, Josh Myers got paid in a one-year deal. Someone's going to give, Ryan or
more like John Runyon.
Walker.
Yeah, he'll get starter money.
Yeah, so that's good. But you also need to have a bunch of good players don't win Super Bowls. And this has always been my big problem, and you need more stars.
And the Packers lack stars right now.
And when you have opportunities to draft as early as they did when they got Rashawn Gary, when they got Lucas Van Ness, I'm not saying you have to hit both of them because that's tough. But you got to hit one of them. And that's now you're chasing, right? Now you're going, they have to trade for TJ Watt. Why aren't they calling, Cincinnati for Trey Hendrickson with an X? So it's a situation where you didn't hit those.
It's a niche joke, but a good one.
If you read Murphy Takes 5 on Packers.com today, you would understand that.
But Gabe, to your point, I'm looking at this group as a whole, and I do believe that Goody, on balance, because not everyone, they don't hit every single pick. That's an impossible standard.
Yep.
Ron Wolf is in the Hall of Fame, and his first-round picks, the Ross Verbas and the John Michaelses, even Craig Newsome, they weren't great first-round picks. He was unbelievable in the third round, which is not where Goody had been unbelievable. But, look, all of his misses that were high-profile picks, Jair Alexander was not a miss.
Nope.
But Eric Stokes was.
Yes.
Right? Which is why you have to sign Nate Hobbs. Second-round picks, Josh Myers played a lot of games for you, but clearly not well enough for you to want him on your team anymore. That's why you go out and sign Aaron Banks, so that's a miss. At running back, it's great that Aaron Jones was as productive as he was because he saved your bacon. Not on your major cheeseburger, though, because you don't have that. But A.J. Dillon was supposed to be your back of the future. You missed on him. That's why you signed Josh Jacobs. You missed on Darnell Savage. That's why you sign Xavier McKinney.
Right?
Now, what's great about Goody is that, unlike Ted, he uses free agency to fill in for his misses. But when you make picks that are on your team that you don't move on from, and they're still not home run swings like the two edge rushers, that's why the pressure is on both those guys this season.
I think that's really well said.
It's a good answer.
Yes, it was.
Good answer.
Good answer.
It's like the price. What is that?
Family Feud. Family Feud, indeed. If one guy on the defensive line reaches superstardom level this year, who is it? Rashawn Gary?
No, I think the ship sailed. Rashawn Gary is who he is. My best hope, I think, is Devontae Wyatt. I think he's the one who's flashed the most at this point. And obviously we'll get this with Quay Walker, they picked up the fifth-year option. So obviously they still have hope that what they saw last year, he can translate that into a more consistent season should he be able to stay healthy.
Kingsley Enagbare. He's my sneaky little guy that could get, because he's in a contract year too, I believe,
yes,
right?
That's correct.
A guy who gets kind of a lower-priced deal because he's having a really good start to the season. About two-thirds of the way through the year, he signs something. And he ends up being him and Carl Brooks are the two guys.
Oh, I like Carl Brooks.
That are guys
like Carl Brooks.
Aren't top 15 picks.
You don't make the playoffs without Carl Brooks last year.
That's true.
Carl Brooks' middle finger.
You're 0-6 in the NFC North without Carl Brooks.
Wow.
I don't want. You know what? I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, that's still bonkers to me. We will actually have to talk about that a bit later, though, Gabe. I hate to disappoint you. So that is your state of the defensive line. We talk linebackers coming up next. It's State of the Packers 2025. That's Jason Wilde. That's Gabe Neitzel. I'm Alex Strouf hanging out with you live from Summerfest. State of the Linebackers coming up next on ESPN Wisconsin.
You're listening to the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Baseball is back. Brian Balaga here to bring you a proud partner of the Milwaukee Brewers. Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka and Surfside Lemonade and Vodka. A delicious and perfect pairing for a day at the ballpark. Stocked at American Family Field all season long. Surfside is only 100 calories per serving, and the best part, 0 bubbles. Ask for it at your local bar or liquor store. Surfside, an official partner of the Milwaukee Brewers. Must be 21 years of age. Please drink responsibly.
Looking for localized banking solutions and a strategic partner? Fifth Third Bank has been shaping the future for businesses for 167 years and for the last 15 right here in Milwaukee. We offer industry-specific expertise, local decision-making, and extensive experience to help you navigate the ever-changing business landscape with your business in mind. At Fifth Third, we're big enough to provide sophisticated solutions and expert guidance, yet empowered to make local decisions and build strong community connections. Experience the commercial banking value only Fifth Third can deliver. Fifth Third Bank National Association. Custom solutions built around your goals. Member FDIC.
This is Kevin Moret from Mentality. Men, you're being robbed of your potential. Research shows a shocking 1% annual decline in testosterone levels. That's why building muscle feels impossible and your confidence is at an all-time low. But here's the truth. You're not alone in this uphill battle. Mentality's physician-directed, FDA-approved treatment doesn't just level the playing field, it restores your body's powerful balance. Our patients experience a documented 30% increase in their testosterone levels. Stop struggling and turn this around. Defy the odds and reclaim your masculine edge at mentalityhealth.com/radio.
It's Jason Wilde from Wilde & Tausch. Upgrade your industrial supply services with Lakeland Supply, your trusted ISO certified partner for custom packaging, shipping supplies, janitorial, and safety supply solutions. With over 40 years of industry excellence, Lakeland Supply is a proven one-stop source with over 95% of their products made in the U.S. and they treat their customers like family. Personalized service with a national reach. That's what Lakeland Supply does. Visit lakelandsupply.com to discover how they can make your business better.
Donors choose. Support a classroom. Build a future.
Did you know that every year, public school teachers spend nearly $500 of their own money for student supplies? Let's do the math. That comes out to over $1.2 billion a year. And that's just not right. At Donors Choose, we want students and teachers to have the tools they need for a great education. And now, more than ever, they need your help. Here's what you can do. Go to DonorsChoose.org and choose from teachers' requests that support reading, math, science, history, and more. Once a request is funded, we'll take care of shipping everything directly to the teacher. It's that easy. You'll receive thank you letters and photos from students and teachers and a report of how every dollar was spent. Teachers' needs have never been greater. Learn more at DonorsChoose.org.
Donors choose. Support a classroom. Build a future.
You really want a summer of entertainment?
My job to win a World Series is my job to provide a summer of entertainment.
Be careful what you wish for.
Struck him out looking. Ball game over. It's a grand slam. Dives. He caught it. Struck him out looking. Oh, my goodness. Christian Yelich. Mizorowski. Sal Freeling. Trevor McGill.
Everything Brew Crew lives right here. 94.5 ESPN, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. Your state, your teams, your ESPN. The ESPN Wisconsin app. Customizable just for you. Find the ESPN Wisconsin app in the Apple or Android app stores today. This is the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
So get it on me. I just want to see.
State of the Packers 2025 live from Summerfest, the final day of the world's largest music festival here at Henry Meyer Festival Park, just off the lakeshore. Beautiful day for the final day of Summerfest. I'm Alex Strouf alongside Gabe Neitzel from Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, Jason Wilde from Wilde & Tausch as we take a deep dive at every position group for the 2025 Green Bay Packers. We are on the defense, and we are on to the middle of the defense. The state of the linebackers. Quay Walker, who you mentioned last segment, Jason, entering the final year of his rookie contract, did not get the fifth-year option picked up. So a crucial season for him. It is year 2 for Edgerrin Cooper, who I think many of us view as potentially an up-and-coming superstar for this Packers defense. Isaiah McDuffie's back for the linebackers. He will fill in as a depth piece for them, a nice depth piece for them. But it's really about those first two guys, Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper at linebacker. Pretty good duo between Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper, I'd say.
I mean, one of them's good. One of them's good. I mean, Quay Walker is somebody, and I know Jen has fallen in love with the tools, right? He's big, he's physical, he's fast. And I understand if you're a Packers fan that feels that same way as Jen does on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy from 7 to 9, Monday through Friday. But the production has not matched up to what, and again, he's got a lot of that potential. He flashes it at times, but also there's so many times where he just guesses and guesses wrong, running up to fill a hole, and next thing you know, the running back's, oh, there he goes.
There goes Saquon again.
Yeah, and for me, for Quay Walker, the actions are speaking louder than the words for the Green Bay Packers. Because, yes, they did not pick up the fifth-year option. But Goody was also saying, oh, man, but we will, he factors into our future plans. We want to sign him to an extension. All right? When's that extension coming? Mm-hmm. And there hasn't really been much talk of it since Goody brought that up. So much like some of these other guys that are potentially waiting for extensions, I have to believe that it's not happening. I don't know if the price was too much and Quay was asking for too much, but obviously, based on their actions, the Packers aren't, as of right now, looking at Quay Walker as a future piece of this defense.
You seem frustrated with the financial department of the Green Bay Packers.
No, I'm not. No, when it comes to Quay Walker, I mean,
Gabe Ball.
I mean, again, with Goody, you just have to kind of parse through what he says. And, if Aaron Jones, no doubt, he's going to be around. Well, I guess not. So you have to parse through what he says. So, look, if they've decided that they don't want to sign Quay Walker, I'm in agreement with that. I haven't seen enough out of him for 3 years for them to pick up. Again, the fifth-year option just realistically wasn't an option because of the way that the NFL does that, if you're unaware. So somebody like T.J. Watt, who is a pass rusher, but because the Pittsburgh Steelers run a 3-4, he's considered a linebacker. Mm-hmm. So those are the salaries. Some outside pass rushers that are getting buku dollars get factored into what that fifth-year option number is ultimately going to be. So you're not going to pay a middle linebacker or a off-ball linebacker the fifth-year option money. It just doesn't make sense. So I understand why they didn't do that. But also, they haven't seemed to be in a rush to sign him to any other sort of long-term extension. So I don't know if they need to see more, which, again, I would agree with when it comes to Quay Walker. I just wish Goody wouldn't say, oh, yeah, this guy, definitely factoring into our future when they haven't made a move to try to lock him up long-term.
Yeah, believe what they do.
Yes.
Don't believe what they say.
Correct.
I think is a good way to view the Goody era. And so, look, a couple things, because I was catching up on the live chat on our ESPN Milwaukee YouTube channel. First of all, I don't think anybody on this panel, Jim, is underestimating what the defense did last year. I thought the defense last year was magnificent. What I respect about what Hafley did was he managed for it to be a top 10 defense in both, I think, 5th in yards, 6th in scoring, or vice versa, without a consistent front four pass rush. I think what we're saying is that group needs to be better. I think if we look at the linebackers, I think we all see through the same lens that Edgerrin Cooper has star potential. Mm-hmm. Guy was a defensive player of the week. He does so many things twice, not rookie, not defensive rookie of the week. Player of the week. You saw him run stride for stride with Christian Kirk in that game. That dude's a fast wide receiver.
Who got paid a lot of money.
Yeah, break up the pass and then break his collarbone by landing on him, right? We saw the sacks, the pressure he can create, the turnovers he creates. He has potential to be really good. Now, again, I am a Quay Walker stan because what I like about him and what I also think has held him back is that he is as hard on himself as any player. He had a good game last season, and we had to have the PR staff go get him out of the parking lot because he is so hard on himself. And again, I don't want to be in parent mode, even though I'm old enough to be most of these guys' dads. Dude, it's hard to be a really good NFL player. Celebrate the wins. It's okay to feel good about yourself. And he and I talked one-on-one for a really long time, and I am in no way saying that I was imparting knowledge, but I would say that it gave him an opportunity to talk about things that he had hinted at in group settings. But he's just so demanding of himself, and I think it's to his detriment. And what was the disappointment of last season for me defensively was going into the Seattle game, he was playing the best football we had seen him play. He wasn't running into the wrong gap. He wasn't running like around a gap to try and tackle the guy from behind.
Yep.
Right? He wasn't thinking. He looked like he knew what he was doing in this scheme. Then he hurts his ankle. He misses time. Isn't a factor in the playoff game because he misses the rest of the regular season, comes back for the playoff game. If that glimpse that we got before the Seattle game is who he's truly capable of being, he's going to be really good this season, and Jen's going to feel really good about that, and then he's going to go play for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think is what the reality is.
Oh, yeah.
Until Goody midway through the season says, oh, no, I meant what I said, and here's a 4-year extension for him, I don't believe that. Now, I do think there's an intriguing wild card here.
Okay.
And that is Isaiah Simmons. Again, another thing that I'm a sucker for is a good reclamation project.
Oh.
And let's be honest, Zach Bond was a huge difference maker for the Philadelphia Eagles last season.
Sure was.
And he wasn't supposed to be.
Correct.
And Devondre Campbell, I forgot his name because he walked out on me and the team, it was a first-team All-Pro that they got in June for $2 million. Now, again, I don't know what Isaiah's role is going to be. They have two Isaiahs, first of all, which is a lot of Isaiahs. They need like a Jacob and a Lamentations. But that's a Christianity joke. But I really want to see what Simmons can do.
That's a Christian.
Because his explanation to us, and I have no reason not to believe him, is that with the Giants and with the Cardinals previously, they loved his versatility so much that they didn't put him in any one spot. So he's playing safety, he's playing nickel, he's playing linebacker, and this guy won the Butkus Award.
Yep.
This guy was the 8th overall pick. So you know there's talent there. So if they can unlock that also allows them to move on from Quay Walker if he doesn't play at the level that you're hoping.
Well, and look, I think the fact that we're being hard on, at least for me, being hard on Quay Walker and being hard on the defensive line, just again tells you how good Jeff Hafley is. Because they were able to find ways to generate pressure with just 4. It just wasn't the front 4. They would do some different zone blitzes. Obviously, you're kind of putting yourself in some advantageous situations then as well. Like, you can't, but as good as Jeff Hafley is, as much as I love him, I don't think you can be good consistently on defense just through schematics alone.
You're right.
You need to have players that are going to make his job that much easier. I think we know Jeff Hafley's a good coach, but now he needs the players to be able to help him out so they can run more of the things that he would actually like to run instead of him becoming a mad genius and coming up with these different fire blitzes and zone blitzes.
To your point on this, the best case scenario is the Packers are looking for a new defensive coordinator next year, or have a new defensive coordinator when we do this show next year. Because Jeff
Hafley,
I
get my sweatshirt first.
Yeah. That is
Jeff Hafley becomes a head coach, and I think it's certainly possible.
Oh, yeah, but I don't think that's the best case scenario.
Well, no, the best case scenario is he does a Ben Johnson.
That's true.
And he earns the opportunity to be a head coach.
And he passes
on it for another year. And
that
then they go win the
Super
Bowl, and then he gets a different job.
Well, they win the Super Bowl again, you mean. Yes, but yes.
Only one, well, 2 of us. Only one of us is not a fan on the panel. Look, here's the thing. To your point, and it's, again, I can't believe how good of a show you've had. And I know how good you are at this job, but, like, to your point, Jeff Hafley got them to be who they were last season through a lot of schematics that were not the plan going in. You hear him and LaFleur and their players on defense talk about this a ton, that they did a bunch of stuff that did not in any way match what their plan was coming in when he got the job. That, to me, is the mark of a really good football coach.
Yep.
So now we've established that. The next question becomes, are those B players that are supposed to be A players going to become A players? Because if they do, now you're not talking about 5th and 6th in total defense and scoring defense. Now you're talking about 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. And now you're talking about giving your quarterback a little more leeway to make mistakes, right? I mean, remember, Favre used to love to talk about how Leroy Butler and Santana Dotson and Reggie White would, after he throw an interception, hey, don't worry about it, bud, we'll get it back for you. And then they go out there and get a takeaway, and he'd be in business, then he'd score a touchdown. Like, They didn't have that during the Joe Barry Carroll era.
Did they have any turnovers during that era?
I believe the answer is no.
It didn't feel like it.
Well, not zero, but it may have felt that.
Okay, all right.
It oftentimes did.
There's one that doesn't really come to my mind, is all I'm saying.
It's actually really good.
Quay Walker.
Jair Alexander in the playoff game in Dallas.
Yes.
He had a pick.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Quay Walker had a pick 6 against the Bears. Jordan Love's first game as the starter, or first real game as the starter. Yeah.
Yeah, so no.
That might be it.
What do you got against Joe Barry?
He's not
a
very
lot.
Good. Not very
I have
good
a lot against Joe Barry.
Interesting hire.
The Isaiah Simmons piece, I'm still hung up on a little bit because he is a guy that fascinates me. And I hope you're right. I hope the change of scenery brings good things for him. But they need, as we've talked about, they need athletic stars on their defense. Well, I don't think he is one.
You get drafted in the top 10 as a defensive player if you hit certain athletic measurements.
Correct.
And obviously he hit those. So it's can you mold that into something? And again, we're just singing the praises of Jeff Hafley. So hopefully if there's a coach that can do it, you're hoping that he can deliver him in a consistent spot and go, hey, I know you've been used all over the place. Maybe we utilize some of that. But we also think that if you're going to benefit from being in one spot, you get to learn that spot and be comfortable in it.
Look, Quay Walker didn't practice all offseason. I saw him scooter by on one of those one-legged scooters, and I think
Sweet.
I didn't get to talk to him beyond him riding on a stationary bike next to me at practice. He said hello, so I don't have a lot of insight from him. But during the entire offseason, it was Isaiah Simmons getting a lot of the work when they go two linebackers next to Edger and Cooper. So he got indoctrinated into the defense quickly. That's where they want to play him. That gives him some opportunity to maybe not be as versatile and maybe be more productive.
Is Quay still going to be the green dot, do you think?
That's a great question. Again, I would look at Quay Walker and say he is much better when he doesn't have to think as much and he can just react. And I think we've seen that growth. The issue is, I would say probably Isaiah McDuffie would be, who played for Hafley in college, would be the guy I would love to have the green dot. But you take him out when you don't go when you go sub-package.
Yeah, right.
So that's not really realistic.
Yeah, and would you want to give it to?
And I don't want to burden Edger and Cooper.
Exactly. Like Cooper seems like he's progressing. Is that too much too fast?
I'll tell you who had it when he was in New York, and I have no doubt could do it even from the back end. It's Xavier McKinney.
Yeah.
So I'll put that on my list. What was the other question I'm supposed to ask?
Ed policy. Is he going to do Murphy Takes Five?
He's going to do a column.
One of those is more important than the other.
Yeah, it's the Murphy Take Five.
The policy maker.
Policies. I think that should be the name of the column.
How about the delicate genius?
I don't understand that reference.
It's a Seinfeld reference.
Okay. I've been watching Seinfeld, by the way, fellas.
Let me know when you get to that seat. That's
relatively early.
Yeah. Well, then maybe I missed it. I may have fallen asleep. Who knows? Remember when I said the defensive line one is going to be interesting?
Mm-hmm.
This next one's going to be interesting.
Are you? Let me ask you: are you breaking it up corners and safeties, or are you putting them all together?
I was going to smush them together. We can break them up, though.
It's up to you. I'm just saying, 154. We got an hour and 6 minutes left. I trust your judgment.
We are going to smush them together. It's the state of the defensive backs.
That's not what I would have done.
Next.
You're listening to the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube. With Wilde and Tausch, you won't miss a play.
Favre, Rodgers, Love, great player, great player, great player. If you're in the crowd that believes he is going to be on par with those other two, then this is a pivotal year for him to show that he is capable of doing that.
Presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
There's a difference between we can win with him and we win because of him.
Weekdays from 9 to noon on 94.5 ESPN, ESPN Milwaukee's YouTube channel, and the ESPN Wisconsin app.
One call, that's all. It's not just a slogan, but a way of life at Gruber Law Offices. If you've been injured, call our team today. We've represented tens of thousands of injured Wisconsinites for well over 30 years. Trust Wisconsin's own Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all.
Don't scroll past summer. Experience it live at Summerfest, because it's more than just a music festival. It's your summer highlight reel. Don't miss Summerfest, June 19th to July 5th. Presented by American Family Insurance. Get tickets at summerfest.com.
Here in Wisconsin, one name is synonymous with fantastic frozen pizza, Palermo's. For almost 60 years, Palermo's has focused on feeding Wisconsin families. And though Palermo's has grown a lot since 1964, they're still family-owned. They're still proud to call Milwaukee home. And they're still committed to making the best frozen pizza possible. From their new and improved rising crust pizzas to their guilt-free Primo thin pies, Palermo's has a delicious slice for every appetite. Find Palermo's in your local grocer's freezer food aisle. Palermo's. Flavor is our family's business.
Erica, it's good to see you.
How are things at our amazing Germantown location?
Absolutely fantastic.
We heard you had a bold idea. What is it?
We're celebrating our 45th year in business, so I think we should give away some natural diamonds.
Wow, that is a bold idea. How many and how big?
3/4 of a carat. 9 natural diamonds, each one clarity enhanced for maximum brilliance. 1 diamond for each store.
How should we mount them, Erica?
We'll give them away as diamond pendants.
So each of the 9 Kessler stores will have their own diamond pendant to give away?
Yeah, and all a person will have to do is to walk into a store and register to win.
Can a person travel to all 9 stores and register at each one?
Yeah, why not? And people will have from now until July 28th to register.
I'm in.
Me too.
It's unanimous, and people should bring in all their old jewelry so that we can professionally clean it for them for free.
That makes so much difference.
For the location of the Kesslers nearest you, visit KesslersDiamonds.com.
The only thing that tops our selection is your savings discount liquor.
Ever notice how wine enthusiasts often speak a completely different language? And while that language may technically be English, to most people it's anything but. Hi, this is Marie from Discount Liquor, where we stock over 8,000 varieties of wine and speak many dialects of wine English to help everyone, from the wine novice to the master sommelier. So if you need an expert recommendation for wine, or maybe you know what you want and simply need help locating it, our experienced staff has got your back. No matter the budget, occasion, or your level of wine expertise, Discount Liquor will make you feel at home. Discount Liquor, unmatched selection, everyday low prices, a helpful staff, and 2 convenient locations. In Milwaukee on 51st and Oklahoma, and in downtown Waukesha on Barstow and Maine.
Discount liquor.
If only life had a remote control, you could pause or rewind. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
This is the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
State of the Packers 2025, live from Summerfest. I'm Alex Strouf. That's Gabe Neitzel. That's Jason Wilde hanging out with you in the Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin mobile studio at the Gruber Law Offices Sports Zone at Summerfest. We're almost through the defense. State of the defensive backs. State of the defensive backfield. There's obviously 2 portions to this. Safety, you feel pretty good about. Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, some up-and-comers, and obviously a massive free agency signing last year, bringing in Xavier McKinney, who at one point in the season was probably the front-runner for Defensive Player of the Year, or at least in the conversation last year. So he had a terrific year for the Packers at safety. You feel very good about that group. On the other hand, I don't know how good you're feeling about cornerbacks now that Jair Alexander has officially been released. Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, Nate Hobbs.
Almost like they're 2 separate conversations.
Yeah, but I guess the more interesting one to me is the cornerback group, because I feel like I'm more confident in this group than a lot of other people are.
Really?
I feel pretty good about it. I mean, how many teams? I feel good about 3 corners on this team. And I mean, maybe it's just because I'm listening to my guy Q Myers, who really told me that Nate Hobbs was going to be a great addition for the Packers, despite him, I think, only played 11 games last year for the Raiders. But I look at that, and I can't imagine there's too many teams that have 3 guys that they truly trust. And by the way, because the safeties are so good and they would drop them down in the nickel sometimes, that adds to some of the depth that they have.
Right, Javon Bullard especially.
Yeah. Yep. How many times toward the end of last season did you walk away from a Packer game and go, man, the cornerbacks are an issue on this team?
Not a ton.
And I think they're better than they were at the end of last season. The reason, obviously, why I say the end of last season is because, well, there was no Jair Alexander. And I know that was such a big part of the discourse this offseason about the Packers cornerbacks and how bad they're going to be without Jair Alexander. But the fact of the matter is, the Packers, the reason why they signed Nate Hobbs was because they knew they were moving off of Jair Alexander. They knew this entire time that Jair was not going to be a member of this team. I don't know why Goody waited as long as he did, but he did. And this team, I like Carrington Valentine, and I feel like his arrow continues to point up. Keyshawn Nixon, the only thing he has done is delivered in every role the Packers have ever asked him to perform in. I look at him much like we were talking about Rasheed Walker. Oh, hey, we're going to put Rasheed in the competition. Well, here comes the guy he's going to... Is he a cornerback one? I don't know, probably not. I know he likes to, had the quote of being cornerback one at the end of last season, and I really like Nate Hobbs. I feel good about those three guys, and hopefully some of the other young players behind them continue to develop, and if there is an injury, they've got the safeties that they trust behind that.
Nate Hobbs has never played a full NFL season. The closest he came was 16 games as a rookie. He played 11 last year. He played 11 in 2022. I think he had 13 in 2023. So while he didn't miss as much time as Jair Alexander, he plays a very physical style, and that leads to ankle injuries and a broken hand and all the things that he dealt with. But I agree with you that he was a smart signing. They could have still kept Jair Alexander at the number that the Baltimore Ravens paid. Goody just hadn't. Goody and LaFleur, they just didn't want him back, period.
Yep.
Right? But I would feel differently about this group because here's the problem that I have. That's great that you feel that good about those three. How do you feel about them once one of those guys misses 6 games because of a MCL tear or whatever happened, PCL with Jair? Because here's the problem behind that. Again, they're all young guys that you're eager to see what they can do. But, like, Kalen King didn't play at all. Like, Micah Robinson is a 7th-round pick. Like, I went into the draft thinking that corner was one of their top needs because they were moving off of Jair. And even though they had signed Nate Hobbs, I like Strouf's guy. I am a big Carrington Valentine guy. I think he has a chance to be in that conversation of Donald Driver, Mark Tauscher, Adam Timmerman, Rasheed Walker, 7th-round picks who turn out to be really good football players for you. But all three of the guys we're talking about have something to prove. Keyshawn Nixon needs to prove that he's a number one. Everything else we've asked him to prove he has. So, for me, to your point, for me to bet against him would be foolish. But he has to prove he's capable of being a number one corner. Nate Hobbs has to prove that he can be a full-time player because he was a sub-package guy for the Raiders. And Carrington Valentine has to prove, after 22 NFL starts, that he's more than just a 7th-rounder overachiever.
It's a nice story.
Yeah.
Right. And I think all three of them can prove to be the people that I'm asking them to be, but they haven't done that yet. And on top of that, they all have to stay healthy because behind them, you're counting on a bunch of guys. I mean, Gregory Jr.
Correct.
Who he's talk about a great story from Wichita Baptist or wherever he's from. He's played 100 snaps on defense in the NFL. They do not have, and you can say what you want about Eric Stokes, and many have. You can say what you want about Robert Rochelle the musical. That's another Seinfeld reference. And Corey Ballantyne when they had the law firm of Ballantyne and Valentine. But those guys have played. These guys have not that are behind them. And they may play great. But right now, they're counting on those three to stay healthy all season long.
Yeah, and look, you're right. They could have afforded to have depth. I just think that there's not a lot of teams across the NFL. I think that most teams have 3 guys they feel good about, and then they're kind of holding their breath after one of those guys gets hurt. I just think that's the state of that position in the NFL. I don't think there are very many teams that are rolling 4 deep with guys they absolutely love and adore. I think that that's a position because of the way the NFL has gone and everybody's spreading it out, and it's a position that gets stretched thin. And even a lot of teams probably don't have 3 guys that they could potentially feel as good about as the Packers do.
Let me ask you this, though, and you've had an unbelievable show, so it pains me to get after you a little bit. But aren't you doing with the corners what we kind of are saying that they do with the wide receivers?
Bingo.
That they got a lot of guys that you like, but we don't really know how good they are. And isn't that equally applicable to – I mean, look, the problem, too, is
but I would
this
say
schedule has way more good quarterbacks and way more good wide receivers on their schedule.
That's very true. But the one thing I would say, though, at least with Keyshawn Nixon, is that Keyshawn has stepped up. Like, Keyshawn's answered the call. Yeah. He's answered the bell.
Yep.
And I don't think I can say that to any one of the wide receivers. Yes, he has another step to take because he's going to be counted on to be their top cornerback. But again, I feel good about this group. I also advocated for Jair being on the team, not even at the number that he was signed for in Baltimore,
right?
At the number that was just owed to him because you only saved $5 million or whatever it would have been against the cap.
Correct.
So for the $5 million extra bucks to me that you saved, especially the way they decided to postmark the release, which has never
seen that before
that I can know in the NFL history. But so for that extra $5 million, I would have. Yeah, you've got the money.
Just do it.
Just keep him around, and then you can have that luxury that not a lot of teams have, even though you had already signed Nate Hobbs. I mean, I'm with you, Jason, but I also just accepted reality of the first statement you said, that neither Goody or LaFleur wanted this guy around, and for whatever reason decided to wait until after June 1 to release him.
Just to be clear for those of you watching on video, I didn't put my headphones down and ignore Gabe because I didn't like what he was saying. The fan fell down, so I had to fix that. So, great points as always. The floor is yours.
I am surprised at the optimism level of Gabe, to be honest with you. I figured this would be we always reference 2 years ago our 2023 State of the Packers, and you guys kind of rained on my parade for 2 or 3 hours, however long our program was back in the day.
It was only 2, and that wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. That's why it's 3 now.
It feels like too much.
Too much time dealing with me. Probably.
No, not at all. We could do another hour, but I'm not going to.
We could, and then we could split safeties and corners.
Could have, should have, but didn't. Because, boy, have we talked a lot about the safeties in this smushed-in segment.
What? Xavier McKinney's great.
He is.
Xavier McKinney's
Evan Williams, pretty good, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have high hopes on Javon Bullard. So I'm surprised by your optimism of the top 3, to be honest with you. But it's good to hear, to be honest with you, because I agree with the Keyshawn Nixon thing. He's answered the call at every turn. I thought he played really well last year, given the circumstances of Jair being inactive a lot of the time. I like what Carrington Valentine's done, but to Jason's point, I think right now as it stands in his career 2 years in, it's just a good story. I don't know if we can say he's a really good corner yet. And then Nate Hobbs, it's TBD. I don't really know much. Hearing that your buddy Q Myers from ESPN Radio, who covers the Raiders out in Vegas, says that he's a really good player. That's great. But I worry about what Jason brought up as well, and that he misses time practically every year.
Because he plays physical.
And then all of a sudden we're going, oh boy, how good is Kalen King? I know people were excited about him, but we're actually going to have to find out this season at some point, right? So that's where I get a little bit of the EBGBs. I don't love the depth, but I do like the guys at the top of the depth chart.
I think that's fair. I didn't expect heebie-jeebies on my bingo card.
I mean, what did you
it's
say
Summerfest.
earlier?
Anything
you said
can
something
happen.
in a different language. Correctamundo, I believe you yelled at one point. Yeah. So that wasn't on my bingo card either. So there we go. Anything else on the safeties?
I put Evan Williams at 18 on my list, which maybe some people wouldn't have put him on that list.
I would have.
But I look at him, not only in the vein of Micah Hyde, but he's the one guy that has such a high football IQ that I think the reason why he's so important, and I wrote about this at channel3000.com, is that you can, if he's the other safety, he gives you the flexibility to, at the last second, switch responsibilities and have Xavier McKinney do something different than what they're showing. And I think one of the challenges for this defense down the stretch last year was opposing offenses figured out a way to steer clear of Xavier McKinney. And while there's value in that, there's undeniable value in that, I don't want them to be able to avoid him because he is a playmaker for me. I want him to have chances at the ball. And if they're just saying, well, McKinney's on that side of the field, kind of like Mike McCarthy ignored the Richard Sherman side of the field in that first game against the Seahawks
Sacrificed
in 2014.
Jared Boykin's career.
Did not go. Jared was a non-factor that day.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
But I think Evan Williams gives
for the
him
rest
that
of his career as well. That was it. Like Jared,
he had that great touchdown though in Chicago where the ball was.
Oh yeah.
Thought it was whistle dead, but it wasn't. And him and Rodgers were the only ones who knew to pick it up. And
that was 2013. That was before his career was sacrificed in 2014.
You've referenced your top 10 or top 20 most important Packers list quite a bit, which we'll talk about a little bit in the 2 o'clock hour. That's it's
already started.
Only 2:10. Yeah.
This is just like Wilde and Tausch.
Yes,
it's
indeed.
like
We're running it just like that. But
just wanted to make you comfortable.
Why is it called the top 20 most important Packers when there's like 27 guys on the list?
Because it's a Jason Wilde list. Next question.
Wow, very defensive.
No, and accurate. I'll explain when we kick off the 2 o'clock hour.
Which is going to happen in 2 minutes. Jason Wilde, Gabe Neitzel, Alex Strouf hanging out with you at State of the Packers 2025. We still got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to talk Jason's top 20 most important Packers list, which has 26 players on it. We are going to talk about the state of the head coach, the state of the general manager. Is either of their seats warm? We will discuss that. And, of course, we will take a look at the 2025 schedule and give prognostication on the record for the 2025 Green Bay Packers. That is all still ahead right here on ESPN Wisconsin.
Make plans to stop by Third Ward Beer Garden at Catalano Square. Experience Milwaukee's favorite beer garden, the perfect spot to meet up with friends in the Third Ward. Open Wednesday through Sunday with live music Thursday through Saturday. Good times and great vibes await at Third Ward Beer Garden.
Fisco is always there for your auto body care. When accidents happen, Fisco Auto Body on Forest Home in Franklin is there when you need them. Got a broken mirror? They'll take care of it. Dented bumper? Scratch paint? Fisco Auto Body will take care of it. If there's any damage you need fixed, Fisco has you covered. Their expert workmanship is guaranteed for the life of your vehicle. So stop in for all of your auto bumps and dings. Once again, you know the line. That's Fisco.
It's ESPN Wisconsin's Ben Bruss talking about our friends at Road America, America's National Park of Speed. Get out of your house this summer and go to Road America, located conveniently between Green Bay and Milwaukee and Elkhart Lake. Come see a race at the legendary 4-mile, 14-turn road circuit that has hosted some of the best races since 1955. WeatherTech Vintage Weekend is up next July 17th through the 20th. Camp on site all weekend and enjoy free admission for kids 16 and under with a paying adult at the gate. Come for the experience and stay for the race. Get your tickets at roadamerica.com.
Kevin Moret here for Mentality. Listen up, gentlemen. You're fighting an unfair battle. Studies show testosterone levels in men have plummeted by 25% in just 2 decades. That's why you're struggling with energy, muscle, and drive. But here's a game changer. Mentality's FDA-approved treatments boost testosterone by 30% on average. Imagine reclaiming the vitality your grandfathers had. Picture turning heads, dominating your career, and feeling unstoppable again. Don't settle for today's normal. Seize the day at mentalityhealth.com/radio. That's mentalityhealth.com/radio.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
That dog does not want to be petted.
Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Tune in to KBN every day at 2 o'clock. 94.5 ESPN is WKTI and WKTI HD, Milwaukee.
A locally owned Good Karma brand station.
Ladies and gentlemen, cheeseheads of all ages, we're gathered here today to assess the health of a nation.
I think we're capable of being a really good football team, a really good competitive football team, but it's not just going to happen.
A nation responsible for 4 Super Bowls.
The Green Bay Packers have won the Super Bowl. The Lombardi Trophy is coming home.
29 Hall of Famers.
40 yards.
It is a touchdown for Leroy Butler.
Sterling Sharp's 3rd touchdown of the game.
And for being one of the most historic franchises in all of professional sports.
I'd like to welcome you all, of course, and tell you how proud we are to have you a part of the Packers, just as you should be proud to be here, to be a part of this team.
Live from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Zone on the grounds of Summerfest, this is the State of the Packers. Alongside Gabe Neitzel and 3-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year Jason Wilde, here's Alex Strouf.
Hour 3, State of the Packers 2025. 3-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year Jason Wilde. Interesting fella, Gabe Neitzel. I'm Alex Strouf.
Most interesting man in the trailer.
The Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin Mobile Studio. Yes, indeed. He was telling us about golf yoga during the commercial break. Fascinated by that. Anyway, let's talk about your list, shall we? Over at channel3000.com.
Sure.
You have revived a long-running series you've done, on and off, for about a decade and a half now. You dub it the top 20 most important Packers, and you release one article every day, counting down the list, 20 to 1, when there's 20 days remaining until training camp begins. Today is, I believe, number 16. It was Nate Hobbs.
Timely, very timely indeed.
Indeed. Number 17 was number 17, Brandon McManus.
I didn't even think of that.
You didn't do that on purpose?
No.
I totally thought you did.
I had to get him in because some people on my panel pointed out that I left him off the list.
Some people on your panel who are very handsome and very smart. I would agree with that.
And also you guys.
Yeah.
Good one.
Good answer.
Good answer.
Good answer. Good answer.
Number 18, safety Evan Williams. Number 19, wide receiver Matthew Golden, who I thought was low. And number 20 was
Luke Musgrave.
Luke Musgrave, the tight end. Thank you for the help. Obviously, we have 15 more to release. Jordan Love will probably be a few weeks from now, if I had to guess.
It's every day, so I guess, 2 weeks from now.
Oh.
We got 15 guys left.
And he would be released 2 weeks from today?
Maybe.
Oh, interesting. You're not going to reveal where you have him?
Nope.
I like that. Okay, then I know the list, so I need to be careful here.
Yes, you do. So one of the all right. So let me bail you out.
I need are you like Chewy? Like so nobody can tell you anything because you might blab it?
I'm also in that group.
Well, it's kind of hard to talk about this list, knowing the results, but knowing that our fans don't know the results. So I'm trying to make sure Jason still gets his clicks when all the articles come out. But I don't know what I can and cannot say. So Jason, go ahead.
I will just say this. I am glad that Brandon McManus was added to the list because he is somebody that I don't think we spend a lot of time on. I doubt we spend a lot of time on when we start talking about the Packers and the season and the potential, success that it could be. Because the schedule's a lot harder this year.
Sure is.
You don't get to play the AFC South, right? You don't get to beat up on them. You don't get to go. I mean, the Packers.
It's like playing the Big West.
Outside of the division, the Packers were, what were they? 10-1 last year.
10-1.
That's correct.
They lost their first game
to the Eagles. That's it.
And then 10 straight non-division wins. So you have to be better in the division because you're not going to have that same record against non-divisional foes this year. Because the schedule's tougher, it could come down to, all right, is Brandon McManus going to make this kick? That could be the difference. It was the difference in one game last year, his first one, where he got to make the game-winning kick.
Houston, right?
Against Houston. So I think that could be a reality. And I don't want to take consistent kicking for granted anymore. We had Mason Crosby for so long, and outside of the blip he had in 2012, the dude was so clutch, you never had to worry about him. And after going through a season and a half of Matt LaFleur praying when his kicker had to go out there to kick field goals,
Ronaldo.
I don't want to take for granted that Brandon McManus can be that consistent and we don't have to worry about him, so I'm glad he was able to get recognition on Jason's list.
Yeah, to your point, he not only kicked one walk-off, he kicked another one a week later.
Oh, yeah.
In Jacksonville. And then
that's right.
He also would have had not a walk-off, but with under a minute to go, he put them ahead in Chicago before or put them ahead in Green Bay before Cairo Santos kicked the
on a cold day and a long field goal.
Yeah, 58?
Yeah. So to be able to do that in that type of conditions, yeah, he could have had a third one. Should have had a third one.
So just to be clear, I do have a blue ribbon panel that helps me with these, and sometimes I take their words under advisement, sometimes I don't. I can tell you this. There are several days that you are going to get combo platters. Kind of like getting both the cheese curds and the fries from Major Goolsby's.
Good one.
Because
sometimes you just can't choose.
You did spoil one earlier by saying Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker will be paired up.
And I think, this is not going to surprise anyone, but whoever the heck the left tackle is going to be also is really important, right? And whether that's so, I'm going to put them both together.
Did you move it higher by chance, or did you keep it where?
Who was it that suggested I put it higher? Oh, that was you. I left it where it was. Had Tausch or Bulaga said that, then maybe they're former NFL tackles. But the fact of the matter is that this is more, in my opinion anyway, to spur conversation and to get us thinking about the different roles on this team. And to Gabe's point, what's weird about this list is that I don't think there's a whole lot of guys that you're like, well, this guy's got to be a top 8 guy on the list. It's not like it's as hard to put together as in previous years, back in the Rodgers era, where they had a bunch of field tilting players. And again, I'm not going to spoil it, but there was some debate on our little panel about the idea of, do you put Jordan Love first or do you put Josh Jacobs first? And I think arguments can be made in both cases. But the bottom line is that this team has a lot of guys, like we were talking about, during the noon hour of the show, that if they play to their capability, which they have not done consistently, this could be a really good freaking football team.
Sure could be.
Like Matt LaFleur talked about at the end of the minicamp. If they have injury issues, I don't think they're deep enough to survive them. We saw what happened to some, look at San Francisco last year. Look at Detroit last year. That's another reason why it's disappointing, whether it's 2014 or even 2023 and 2024. Yeah, you got in as 7th seeds, but opportunities were there. There was clearly a rust factor for the Eagles. They were there for the taking in that game. Your defense played well enough. Instead, you turned the ball over 4 times. Should have only been 3 because I think the opening kickoff was indeed recovered by Keyshawn Nixon. But so I'm just, it's not as fascinating as it was when we stood here 2 years ago and told you we thought they were going to go 6-11, because I had no idea what to expect. And that was a revitalizing season for me to go in not with, okay, they're going to make the playoffs. Are they going to get over the hump and get to a Super Bowl for the first time since 2010's team made it to the Super Bowl 45? That was, oh my God, what exactly is going to happen with this team?
Right.
Now we think they're good enough to be a playoff team, but now we're back to that kind of same place. The quarterback's not as far along as Rodgers was, but again, as I said to Jordan when we talked to him, look, I am not making this comparison. I'm not saying that this season will be a failure if you don't do what Rodgers did in his 3rd year as the starter. But the fact remains, they won a Super Bowl in Rodgers' 3rd year as the starter. So it is time for him to be something more than what he's been. I believe he's capable of that. How much he does and how good he is. I know Tausch and Jesse, when we were down at the Hard Rock Casino Rockford, put down some shekels on Love winning the MVP. They're going to make some good money. Since I didn't chip in, I don't take in on the winnings. But I don't think he's going to be an MVP player this year. Rodgers wasn't an MVP player the year they won the Super Bowl either, but they need him to play at a higher level.
Yeah, they certainly do, which is why I would put him number 1 on the top 20.
Some say. Others disagree.
Well, we will find out what you feel when we get to 1 or 2 days before training camp, depending on where he lands on that list.
It actually ends on the 20th. And then we got a few other things going on. We got the position by position series, which will also give you more fodder to work with. That'll start on a week from tomorrow. We'll start, and I actually did the corners and the safeties as separate. Some might say that's the way to do it.
Some might say that, but some could disagree. Who could say for certain?
So anyway, there's a lot coming on Channel 3000, but I appreciate you guys using this as fodder for your shows and for this show as well.
Very good. So Brandon McManus was not on the initial list.
He was not? No.
You then wrote the article, published it yesterday, number 17.
Correct.
Who got kicked off the list?
No one. I doubled somebody up.
He just combined them again. Will he strikes again?
So we're up to what, 27 guys in the top 20?
I haven't counted.
Half the roster.
He's got half the roster.
Well, that's the kind of season it is, Gabe. A lot of important people facing important seasons.
Yep. I agree.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I told Jason when I first saw the list, and he has the explanation in there, honestly, I'd have been disappointed if he sent me a list with 20 numbers and literally just 20 names.
That's not Jason.
That would have been disappointing, and I would have wondered who hijacked your phone.
State of the head coach, state of the general manager. Any warm seats in Green Bay?
Some warm seats in here.
No kidding.
It's a
toasty one here at Summerfest. We talk Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst right after this. It's State of the Packers 2025 live from Summerfest.
You're listening to the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
This weekend on ESPN Radio, heated rivals go head-to-head.
Kyle Schwarber, and this place is going bananas.
The Philadelphia Phillies, the New York Mets.
It's out of here! Juan Soto stops and celebrates.
Coverage of Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Milwaukee starts at 5 p.m. on 94.5 ESPN and always streaming on the ESPN Wisconsin app.
Hi, I'm Brittany Miller from Big Frog Custom T-Shirts and more. Custom T-shirts, sweatshirts, jackets, hats, you name it, we can do it. Big Frog Custom T-Shirts and more is family-owned and all about celebrating life's big moments. Maybe it's a milestone birthday, a celebration for your child's first goal, or that work fundraising event. We are everyone's printer. No minimum orders, affordable designs, and help straight from me and our team. We're the one-stop shop for all your custom needs. Start your project today at bigfrog.com/Mequon.
Life's better with American Family Insurance because we know it's not just a car, it also drives your children's dreams. So whether you're going to soccer practice, robotics club, or opening night in the school play, we help protect those dreams. Save up to 23% when you bundle auto and home. American Family Insurance. Get a quote and find an agent at amfam.com.
Products not available in every state. Visit amfam.com to learn how discounts may apply to you. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
College students, are you looking to make your campus living more comfortable, functional, and fashionable this year? Let IKEA help. From innovative storage solutions and furniture to maximize your space, to fashionable bedding and accessories to make it uniquely yours, IKEA is helping make college living truly inspired by you. And now, qualified college students can save even more with 15% off their IKEA purchase when they sign up for IKEA Family for free. Visit IKEA Oak Creek, IKEA Schaumburg, or check out the Ready for College section on IKEA.com/US to learn more.
Pollution from trucks is a public health crisis. Diesel-burning trucks belch dangerous levels of pollution, and communities living near ports and along freight corridors breathe especially high levels of this dirty air. But this crisis has a solution. My name is Sasan Sadat, and I work for Earth Justice. I'm working to clean up our air quality, particularly for communities that bear the burden of diesel pollution. For the sake of our lungs, our health, and our climate, the future of trucking in this country has got to be zero emissions. Until then, I will never rest.
Earth Justice is a national legal nonprofit defending the environment and people's health. Earth Justice is fighting to save lives, protect our climate, and strengthen our economy through the shift to zero emissions. If clean air matters to you, visit us at earthjustice.org. Earth Justice, because the earth needs a good lawyer.
I'm Tiffany Haddish.
And I'm Marlon Wayans. African Americans are 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer than any other racial or ethnic group.
Access to cutting-edge treatment can help make long-term survival possible.
That's why Stand Up to Cancer and the Lustgarten Foundation have teamed up to bring over 30 pancreatic cancer clinical trials to those who need them.
For more information about the latest pancreatic cancer research and clinical trials near you, visit pancreaticcancercollective.org.
Look out, world, we're getting strong. The future's here and we belong. She can STEM, she can do more. Like build a rocket and watch it soar. Or clean the oceans and make the world a better place. Oh, she can STEM, so can you. Find a cure, invent something new. There's no challenge in the world that she can't face. She can STEM.
Learn more at She Can STEM. A message brought to you by the Ad Council.
This is the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Are you listening?
State of the Packers 2025, live from Summerfest. Alex Strouf, Gabe Neitzel, Jason Wilde hanging out with you. We are about to get to the state of the head coach and the state of the general manager, but we bid farewell to our audiences on 100.5 ESPN Madison and 1430 ESPN Beaver Dam with the Brewers game coming up against the Marlins in just about 30 seconds or so. But a reminder, we will be with you on 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube, also free in the all-new ESPN Wisconsin app until 3 o'clock if you are listening on either of those radio stations. Time now to talk a little Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst. Does anybody sense any heat on either of their seats if things go awry this season?
I think you have to feel a little bit. Now, do I think that their heat is hot as the pavement here at Summerfest on a warm day? No, but the fact that Ed Policy has already said he's not going to give those 2 extensions and he doesn't want to do he's not a fan of lame duck seasons.
Right.
I think you have to interpret that as, okay, these two have to have a successful season. They have to go out there and prove it. I don't think they have to go out and win a Super Bowl or get to an NFC Championship game. As long as they make the playoffs, I think everything's going to be fine. But
agreed.
If things go south quickly and somehow they only win, God forbid, 7 games and they miss out on the playoffs and they're below 500, for the first time in the Jordan Love era, I think that's going to lead to some interesting conversations between Goody, LaFleur, and their new boss.
So let's do a hypothetical. They go 10-7.
Yep.
They're the number 7 seed, and they lose to the 2 seed on the road again. So that would be 3 straight years of being the 7 seed, 2 straight years of not winning a playoff game. They would have won 1 playoff game in the Love era. What happens to their contracts?
I'd say small extensions.
Right, I think they each get a year added on, so they're not in a lame duck year.
Yeah,
okay?
Small, year, maybe 2.
If they go 8-9, 7-9-1, and miss the playoffs.
I think that's an interesting conversation.
Because then, if you're not a fan of lame duck seasons and you're on the record saying, like, look, that Friday, it was all clandestine. Like we weren't even able to tell you where I was that day because there was the TV folks had a separate thing, and so we didn't. No one could say what I was doing, other than I can't be on Jim, Matt, and Molly that day. But the fact that the storyline that came out of that, for all of us, for Domofsky, for Schneidman, for me, for Huber, not for Packers.com though, was that he's not going to sign them to extensions, and he doesn't believe in a lame duck season for a coach and a GM. Now, he said he would. He did not paint himself into a corner and say he would never do that.
Nope.
So I think they make the playoffs, they lose in the first round. If that ends up being what, and look, this season could be a deep playoff run too. I'm not saying it's not, but just for our hypothetical, I think they each get 1 year added onto their deal. That's what they did with Mike McCarthy going into 18.
Right.
When previously he and Ted had gotten long extensions each time. So Mike got 1 more year after that 2017 season, when they would have been a playoff team if Rodgers doesn't break his collarbone again. But
they were 6-2 when he got hurt.
Yeah,
something like that.
I think they had just
5-2.
I think they were 4-1. I think they had just won that game in Dallas, the one where Devontae Adams comes back to the huddle and says, "Throw a better ball. Let's run that same play." And then they go to Minnesota and lose, but maybe they don't if he's healthy. But my point is that I think you get 1 year added on. If they have a deep playoff run, they both get extensions, and everybody's
extensions
happy.
And no issue.
The no playoffs sub, or let's say they go 9-8 and it's not good enough to get into the playoffs, that's a different conversation now because of what the new incoming team president set forth in our sit-down with him in the alumni suite a few Fridays ago.
So I don't think either's job is necessarily in jeopardy.
I don't think either one of them are getting fired after the season.
I would agree. But again,
unless they go 4-13.
Yeah,
really
it would
bad,
have to.
right?
Yeah, it would have to be 2005 levels of just bottom falling out. But
that team was completely dysfunctional.
Oh yeah.
Although they were the best 4-12 team in NFL history, just ask him.
I don't even know if you have to ask him. I think he just might offer up the information. He just might offer it up. But that doesn't mean there's not a little bit of heat there, because obviously there is. In order to secure the future of your job, you got to go out and perform this year if you're good at Kuntz. I guess it's more on the floor because Goody's job is more. I mean, not that he's not doing anything during the season, but the bulk of
his job is done. His hands are clean now.
The bulk of his job is done.
Player acquisition is 365 24/7.
Yeah, it is. Sure.
That's what I've been told.
Maybe they'll trade Rasul Douglas at the deadline. No, wait, they already did that. That's right. Forgot about that one.
Could have used him.
Yes, right now, in fact.
Yeah, he's still out there.
Free agent, isn't he?
He is still available, yes.
Yeah, but bad
30.
news, yeah.
He's over 30.
I think he's 32 years old. Bad news.
But look, I have faith that these two, again, while I am not a fan of the structure in which they currently operate, it's hard to ignore the success that they've had together. They haven't had that ultimate success.
Well,
but I also don't think that that's reason, because I'm sure there is at least some portion of the fan base that if they win a playoff game in the wild card round and then get close in that divisional round like they did 2 years ago, fire them both, start over.
Right.
That's what bad teams do.
Yep.
That's what the Bears did with Lovie Smith, and they have been literally chasing ever since. Like, I don't want to find myself in that position.
Yep.
I think you can get over the hump with these two, but they, much like a lot of the players we've talked about, have to go out and prove it.
You got to prove it. And like the general manager said after the season ended last year, I think it's time we start competing for championships around here.
He did say that.
And hopefully this is the year in which that occurs. Year 3 with Jordan Love as the starting quarterback. Couple of segments left, couple of minutes left. We continue after this. It's State of the Packers 2025. Jason Wilde, Gabe Neitzel, Alex Strouf hanging out with you right here on ESPN Milwaukee.
You're listening to the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
You know, I couldn't stop talking about it to my family and friends. My knees are my trouble spot. But for me to tell them now that I'm doing so much better, they were amazed, and I've been amazed.
QC Kinetics Cellular Therapies. Yes, it is amazing how these non-surgical treatments deliver joint pain relief for patients like Dr. Eric Williams, a successful chiropractor.
Each week, I just started noticing that I could sleep and not have pain. I could play pickleball. I could do a CrossFit exercise routine.
QC Kinetics revitalizes your joints so you can move again without the pain pills or invasive surgery.
You know, I'm 60 years old and I want to stay competitive as long as I can. And QC has allowed me to do that. They did me right and really made a difference in my life.
Book your free consultation with QC Kinetics today and experience the difference for yourself.
I like to go, move, move, move.
QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics, 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. 414-285-3474.
Kyle Brust-Nortman's Ben Brust here for Grimal and Associates Insurance. They do what anyone with a growing family, like myself, does. Protect what matters most. Grimal and Associates specializes in coverage that's tailored exactly to you. Clients aren't just policies, they're part of their community. Personalized American Family Insurance back service, expert guidance, and genuine commitment. Grimal and Associates focuses on building trusted relationships and providing peace of mind, the same values they've had for over 30 years in the Milwaukee area. Connect with Grimal and Associates at teamgrimal.com.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns, it's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know caring for addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma goes hand in hand. We're here for you with new tools when life breaks down. Discover your path to better mental health at hazeldenbettyford.org/Wisconsin. Sponsored by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation.
Hey ESPN Milwaukee fans, Brian Balaga here for Surfside. Summer is heating up and there's nothing more refreshing than an ice-cold Surfside iced tea and vodka or Surfside lemonade and vodka to break the heat. Made with real brewed tea and real vodka, Surfside is only 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar, and 0 bubbles. That's right, no carbonation, so it's easy to sip and enjoy no matter what your plans are this weekend. Look for the can with the sunset stripes, sold at bars, restaurants, and stores near you. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
The open road is calling, and the ride begins at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. This July, you could burn rubber on a custom Harley-Davidson in the Fire Up Your Fantasy motorcycle giveaway. Play with your rewards card all July for entries. Thursday drawings for extra cash and reward play. Fire Up Your Fantasy, only at Potawatomi. More info online. Must be 21 and a rewards member to play.
I take care of my bone health, so I remain strong and active as I age. You can too. It is never too early or too late to start taking care of your bones. Bones provide support to keep you moving. Maintain bone strength at every age by getting calcium and vitamin D in your diet and exercising regularly. Get on your own path to good bone health. For bone health tips, visit pathtogoodbonehealth.org.
Station updates, show clips, and your place to interact with us every single day just by scrolling through your feed. Follow along on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at ESPN Milwaukee. This is the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
State of the Packers 2025, live from the big gig of the world's largest music festival, Summerfest. He's the 3-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year, Packers beat writer. and very talented radio host, Jason Wilde. He's the MVP of today, though. Gabe Neitzel is with us.
No doubt.
I'm Alex Strouf hanging out with you. He hasn't
What have you brought to the table?
I've thrown us to commercial break a few times.
He's done a really good job of keeping us, on schedule.
No, when do we start the 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock hours?
Wilde and Tausch time.
Yes, indeed.
I'm starting to think it's a you problem and not a Tausch problem.
I'm not driving this bus.
Fair point. So, I feel pretty good about what we talked about. Now, we're going to get to our final projections and thoughts on this year's team coming up next. But all in all, this has been positive. This hasn't really been negative at all. This is really good. What's going on with you guys this year?
Well, I feel like it was really positive last year, too.
I wouldn't say really positive, but I would say generally positive.
What did you pick them to go last year? I picked them to go 11-6.
Yeah, you nailed it.
I doubled.
No, I picked them 12-5. I did not nail it. I went from being 3 too low to being 1 too high.
Yeah,
okay.
Double-digit wins. I think we were all in the same ballpark of thinking.
You just are so scarred by our 2023 show.
That was a hard one because I was thinking back on it.
We were looking pretty smart about 2/3 of the way through.
I think this is year 4 for Gabe and I on the revitalized version of State of the Packers. I don't think you were a part of it the first year.
Somehow I invented it and wasn't welcome 4 years ago.
Yes. 2022 was obviously very positive, the final year of Rodgers.
Mm-hmm. And it turned out to be wrong to be that positive.
Correct. 23 was negative. We were wrong. Well, you were wrong. I was right. I believed in Jordan Love.
I know I've seen the tweet that you have pinned on your
Yes, from the night he was drafted.
Okay.
And last year we were pretty spot on, I would say.
And puts the bar in a very key place this year.
Well, and I think Jason had said it, that this team could grow, this team could get better, even if they don't go as far in the postseason as they did the year before. And that's exactly what Jason had kind of called going into last season.
Well, what will the Packers' record be in 2025? Harder teams on the schedule, better quarterbacks against a questionable defensive backfield for Green Bay. We will dive into that coming up next as we wrap up State of the Packers 2025 live from Summerfest.
You're listening to the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
People need people, whether in Junior Achievements BizTown, where students work together to run a city, or in the real world, where blood donors can help save lives. Join Junior Achievement of Wisconsin and Versity for a mobile blood drive on Tuesday, July 15th from 2 to 6:30 p.m. at JA's headquarters near Highway 100 and Good Hope Road. While you're there, tour Jim's JA BizTown, where students take on real-world roles like CEO, banker, and mayor, learning how communities thrive through teamwork and leadership. Sign up today at wisconsin.ja.org.
Hey, Jen Latta here, and as a client of the We Sell Group, I can tell you firsthand, Rob and Nick make the home buying and selling process easier. Right now, school's out, and that means it's the perfect time to list your home. The market is challenging and inventory is tight, but you don't have to face it alone. Rob and Nick are pros. They take the stress off your plate so you can focus on your family, your summer, and just breathe. Contact Rob and Nick to see what your home might be worth in this market. Connect today at wesell.kw.com. That's wesell.kw.com.
Coors Light presents To Chill or Not to Chill, when your friend skips your favorite song on the playlist. End of friendship. Or choose chill because that song lives rent-free in your head anyway, and you planned ahead by bringing Coors Light to the party. And the sound of that ice-cold can cracking open was music to your ears already. Coors Light. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
The only thing that tops our selection is your savings discount liquor.
Ever notice how wine enthusiasts often speak a completely different language? And while that language may technically be English, to most people it's anything but. Hi, this is Marie from Discount Liquor, where we stock over 8,000 varieties of wine and speak many dialects of wine English to help everyone, from the wine novice to the master sommelier. So if you need an expert recommendation for wine, or maybe you know what you want and simply need help locating it, our experienced staff has got your back. No matter the budget, occasion, or your level of wine expertise, Discount Liquor will make you feel at home. Discount Liquor, unmatched selection, everyday low prices, a helpful staff, and 2 convenient locations. in Milwaukee on 51st in Oklahoma, and in downtown Waukesha on Barstow in Maine.
Discount liquor.
Hey, this is Mike from Infinity Exteriors. Buying a roof, siding, or windows can feel overwhelming. Hidden costs, confusing contracts. We don't play that game. We educate you so you can decide. And when you know the facts, Infinity Exteriors is the clear choice. Since 1997, we've installed peace of mind with no surprise upcharges, flexible budgets, and immediate financing. Infinity Exteriors, saving our communities from unscrupulous contractors. Visit infinityexteriors.com. Communities in Southern California urgently need our help. The Los Angeles wildfires have been some of the most destructive in state history. Thousands of homes destroyed, schools, classrooms, libraries, museums, places of worship, all lost, and livelihoods ruined. With so much devastation, students, families, businesses, and communities are now left struggling to recover. And that road to recovery will be a very long and a very difficult one. But there is hope. The SoCal Fire Fund provides immediate, free, and long-term support for countless community-centered recovery programs. You can be a part of providing those most impacted with the resources they need to move forward. So please, visit SoCalFireFund.org to learn more about how you can join in this tremendous effort.
This is the State of the Packers on ESPN Wisconsin, the ESPN Wisconsin app, and ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Wrap it up. State of the Packers 2025 live from the Gruber Law Offices Sports Zone at Summerfest. I'm Alex Strouf. He's Gabe Neitzel. He's Jason Wilde.
I just want to say I feel, and you know, I have a lot of Ted Lasso in me. And I tend to give you a hard time because, well, I want to keep your ego in check, really. But you have done a fantastic job today. And I don't feel like I think I made fun of you. I gave you a hard time. I want to make sure that everybody hears what a rising star you are and what a great job you've done. I would like to compliment Gabe, but Gabe hates it when people compliment him.
He got really uncomfortable when I said, dude, you're crushing it.
And then we were
today.
Comfortable as a result. It was like the transitive property of uncomfortableness.
Yes, correct, yes.
Which is different than the Pythagorean theorem of uncomfortableness. So you've done a great job. The time has absolutely flown by, and I can't wait till next year if you'll have me back.
We will always have you back. My goal is to do this as long as we possibly can with the three of us. I tweeted this yesterday, but it truly is one of my favorite things I get to do every year is this show. I look forward to it every year. It's always a blast to hear from you guys, especially when you're positive like you've been today, might I add.
And shout out to Bill Johnson, wherever you are in Beaver Dam. I know you've transitioned to other careers. You do some radio stuff still, but it was his idea back in 2006 that started this whole thing. And I'm glad that we brought it back, and I'm glad after we brought it back, I eventually got invited to be back on the show.
There you go.
Interesting year to start it. Coming off of 05.
It was.
McCarthy's new.
That was the A.J. Hawk draft, 2006?
It was. They had drafted Rodgers the year before. They had fired the head coach.
That was McCarthy's first year.
They had stripped, the previous year, they had stripped Sherman of his GM job. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think it was, hey, it's a Saturday or Sunday at Summerfest. We need some programming. And Wilde's on all these shows. I wasn't even a full-time employee of Good Karma. And Bill said, well, what if we did like a State of the Packers show? So he was the innovator, and obviously it ended up being the first step in a great career that I've been able to have here on this team.
Yeah.
So, and now back with you guys.
And now, obviously, the show has evolved over the years, but it is always very fun. Always very fun. All right, I'll go first. Just kind of final thoughts on the 2025 Green Bay Packers. I feel good, not great about this team. I feel good, not great about the teams that they are playing and the teams on their schedule. I think it's going to be much tougher of a rodeo than it was a year ago. I don't think you're going 11-6 playing the type of football that team played this year. Just given the really good offenses and quarterbacks on your schedule. The NFC North, I think, is winnable for Green Bay this year. Detroit, I still view as the second or third best team in the NFC, if not the entire NFL.
They won 15 games last year.
They sure did. And obviously they're getting a lot of their guys back when they were decimated with injuries.
Something I think people have forgotten, by the way, because everyone's focusing on the fact that they're replacing both their coordinators, is what you just said. I think it's a really good point that Packers fans don't want to think about. Instead, they want to look at, they've lost both their coordinators.
But I think that will affect them.
I agree it will.
And that's why I think the North could be winnable if this team is as good as we think they can be. And that's been the theme of the show today, right? These guys are good. They need to get to the next level.
So I think there's still a little bit of ways away from that because so many of those things that have to fall into place. Yeah. Well, they can win the division if everything falls into place. Mm-hmm. And very rarely does that turn out to be the case.
You view that as requiring Edgerrin Cooper to be almost all-pro. You view that as Nate Hobbs and Carrington Valentine need to be great in the defensive backfield. You view that as Matthew Golden needs to be the receiver he was drafted to be.
The best teams in this league have stars.
Yep.
And so, again, take what you want on a Pro Football Focus. But I was just kind of
taking... The sheet is back.
I was taking a look at, in the division, top 10 players at their position per PFF.
Okay.
The Lions have the most in the division with 9.
Probably have the most in the league.
The Vikings had 4. The Bears had 2. How many do you think the Packers had? Top 10 at their position per Pro Football Focus a year ago.
2.
I'll go 3.
4.
Okay.
Oh, better than I thought.
Josh Jacobs, Zach Tom, Xavier McKinney, and Edgerrin Cooper.
Those were the 3. I did not have Edgerrin Cooper. Okay, interesting.
I thought Zach Tom had a bad year. That's why he's competing for his job.
That's why he's competing for his job. But so to that point of, they got to replace both those coordinators. Yes, but they also have a lot of talent that is going to be able to bridge that gap.
You're right.
Yes, those coaches had a lot to do, and I think Ben Johnson gets a lot of credit for Jared Goff getting to a level he didn't get to and then sustaining that level that he didn't have in Los Angeles. Can he sustain that? I'm not sure. But also, they've got probably the best running back tandem in the league.
Yep.
They have 2 bona fide studs on the outside. They've got a pretty good tight end. They've got a good offensive line. One of the top pass rushers in the league. And a whole bunch of those defenders coming back. So I think that they're going to be, maybe they don't win 15 games again. I think that would be tough for them because much like the Packers, you're not beating up on the AFC South this year. So the schedule's going to be a little more difficult. But they have a lot of studs. They have a lot of stars. And the Packers, again, I listed off 4 of top 10 at their position last year. I would say 2 of those are bona fide stars in this league, and Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney.
Mm-hmm.
I'd listen to a case on Zach Tom. And Edgerrin Cooper still has more to prove. Unless more guys step up to be studs, this team is going to be a wild card team that hopefully you get the right matchup in the playoffs.
I think the ceiling is like 13-4. I think the floor is as low as 9-8 for 2025. And it's dependent on everything you just said.
Because, again, they've got good players. I think when we look at the different positions, they've got good players. They've got guys showing that they can be contributors. It's just, you can only go so far with that. You look at the Eagles and how stacked they are. You look at so much credit for the Kansas City Chiefs, understandably so, goes to Patrick Mahomes, but they've got a lot of difference makers. Previously on their offensive line, some defensive playmakers that they've had, and the defense has really carried the day for the Chiefs as of late. But you look at those teams that made it to their respective championship games, they've got stars. They've got big-time contributors that are stepping up when it matters the most. And Jordan Love has shown that he can be a big-time contributor. Mm-hmm. But when it's mattered the most, as Jason pointed out earlier in the show, his last 5 playoff quarters, 5 interceptions.
Mm-hmm. So you view the record as what, Gabe?
I'm very similar to last year, I think, which would be an improvement given how tough the schedule is this year. But I look at this as around an 11-win team. That's going to be good enough for a wild card. I don't think they're going to be better than the Lions. I think they're better than the Vikings, who are going to go through some growing pains despite the studs they have on their roster. But J.J. McCarthy and going with him at quarterback.
State of the Packers 2025. That's Gabe Neitzel and Alex Strouf. We've got about 3.5 minutes remaining. Jason Wilde, the floor is yours.
I said last year they could have a better team and not go as far as they did in the playoffs. That turned out to be true. I think this year they could have a better team and have a lesser record. I'm going to pick them to go 10-7. I've been pretty consistent with that because I do think the schedule is harder. I do think that we are putting a lot of eggs in the Lions lost both their coordinators and Ben Johnson is a brilliant offensive mind basket. Look, the division has all kinds of question marks, right? Are the Lions going to be as good without those 2? Are the Vikings going to be as good with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback? And what exactly are the Bears going to be? The Packers feel like the same team that can still be good, but not great. And so, like you said, I think it comes down to who their playoff matchup would be. They have to stay healthy. If they have the kind of injury problems the San Francisco 49ers or the Detroit Lions had, they are not finding a way. They do not have that kind of depth on their roster. And so then we're looking at a much more disappointing season. I don't expect that. I expect them to go 10-7. I expect them to be a wild card. I wouldn't be surprised if they got the right matchup if they win their first playoff game. But again, I think they're still a year away from us saying that they are truly competing for a championship.
It's a team we will reflect on as the best 10-7 team in NFL history.
If that's what they turn out to be, I see a path for them to be in an NFC championship game and going 13-4. I'm not saying they can't, but again,
a lot has to fall into place.
A lot has to go right.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And,
God, you're good.
And a lot of that, I think, is dictated by two people who we talked about a little bit earlier. It's the head coach, it's the quarterback. Can Jordan Love be that dude?
Almost every team in the league.
Well, of course. I don't think this is groundbreaking analysis.
Right. But what I'm saying is that we tend to maybe overvaluate both those guys sometimes. Those guys both have to be on top of their games this year because they've got a defense that's championship caliber. They have a lot of good, not great weapons. Those are the two guys that can make those good but not great weapons and make Jordan Love even better.
Well, think about it, right? You saw it for years and years with Aaron Rodgers, the way he elevated the guys around him.
And Lazard got paid because of Aaron.
Correct. We've seen Jordan Love in moments, at times, in flashes, elevate the guys around him. The word we used a ton in this program last year around Jordan Love was consistency. Can he do it consistently? And that will be, again, a question in 2025. That does it for State of the Packers 2025. Jason, Gabe, good stuff today.
Can't wait to do it again next year.
I hope we have a ring on our finger next year.
Are you getting engaged?
No. I was referring to a Super Bowl ring.
Since when do radio hosts get Super Bowl?
Yeah,
well,
that's where you're gonna end the show after all this. We had such a great show.
Yeah.
And in the last 30 seconds,
decides to punt it away.
You get the field goal blocked.
I tried. All right,
I gotta go.
I don't know if you did.
All right, well, you can hear Jason and Gabe Monday morning beginning at 7 o'clock. Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, 9 o'clock for Wilde and
Don't congratulate him. He's terrible.
I did a great job
He ended the
today.
show on a terrible note. He's going to get a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah. If they win the Super Bowl, I'm going to get a ring.
That's not how that works.
All right, well, we'll find out next year on State of the Packers 2026. That does it for us. Big thanks to Will Summers and Evan Wittallison for running the show for us today. If you missed any of it, you can find it at ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube and the all-new ESPN Wisconsin app. Jason, Gabe, thank you. This has been State of the Packers 2025.
The only thing that tops our selection is your say.